Hello everyone. This is your friend from Naruto Audio Fanfics, and we are back once again with a brand new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto Uzumaki became a chaotic genius prank master and changed his destiny alongside Ino and Hinata, Naruto times Ino times Hinata, Part 3. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to hit the like button, thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel for more amazing Naruto fanfics like this. So without wasting any more time, let's start today's fanfic. Anko slowly stirred to consciousness as she could feel a deep, satisfying ache spreading through her body, a smile instantly curling upon her lips as she started to roll onto her side. Or, at least she tried to. Her body refused to budge more than the merest of inches as she felt her limbs bound tightly against the bed. As she moved to speak, to protest, she could feel the thick mess of fabric stuffed into her mouth, and tied into place as she let her eyes flutter open, glazed and unseeing at first. Then she noticed it, the weight atop her own, the warm, soft flesh, as her own, as she looked down at the mess of dark hair tossed about the sleeping face. Kurenai's sleeping face, the woman bound chest to chest atop her mouth gagged just as she was as they lay in the apartment. Slowly, groggily she felt images of the previous night come back to her, and unconsciously, she let a shiver ripple down her spine. MMMPH. Oh, finally up, Anko-chan. The voice came from just beyond the bed, revealing a shirtless Iruka yawning just a bit. Good thing your team has the weekend off, otherwise they'd be wondering where you two were. Oh, it's around, 11, 12, something like that. The man grinned down at her as he would casually reach his fingers to her unbound hair, running them through it with a grin. Now Anko-chan, have you learned your lesson yet? Thinking back on the night before, the woman couldn't help but grin, lecherously up at the man and quickly shook her head. A shame, the man shrugged a bit, before grinning at her. Then I guess we won't be doing that again. Listening to the desperate whimper escaping her throat, he lightly began to shake on Kurenai's shoulder. Kurenai-san, you might want to wake up. Groggily the other woman slowly was roused to wakefulness, her crimson eyes blinking, slowly, uncertainly glazed over with sleep before she looked down and realized her situation. Blushing the same shade as her eyes, the man himself blushed lightly at her whimper before he would carefully start to cuff her wrists and ankles, freeing her. That done, he gently pulled a sheet atop her, his eyes not quite able to meet her own as he continued to flush crimson. Carefully reaching up, the woman untied the gag from her mouth, not quite able to meet the man's gaze as she gave a soft murmured response. Thank you, Iruka-sama. Ah, right, the man responded with a nervous chuckle before he looked down as he gave Anko a, this is all your fault, look. The woman in question merely smiled up at him with her eyes shining happily before giving a muffled, in response. So, yeah. Washed your clothes and whatnot. They're in the bathroom, down the hall, on the left. Of course. Did you want me to go? The woman responded, her eyes darting up towards the man with a sheepish blush on her face. The man paused a moment, shifting worriedly as he couldn't quite look back at her. I'm more surprised you aren't killing me than anything. Oh, the woman paused a moment, blinking at the man before glancing down at Anko. Seeing the shrug the woman her friend gave her, she flicked her eyes back to Iruka. Why? I might have gotten a bit carried away, the man said carefully. Before or after you took control, and our brains out? The woman asked curiously as she casually let the sheet drop, casually revealing her soft flesh. With the whole taking control and your brains out, the man responded nervously as he watched the beautiful woman shrug once more as she casually ran her fingers against Anko's upper stomach. I don't know, do you think he got carried away with it, Anko-chan? Kurenai looked down at Anko, canting her head lightly to the side as she watched her friend violently shake her head. Pursing her lips lightly, the woman grinned down at Anko. You seem to be spending a lot of time bound and gagged lately, Anko-chan. I think I'm starting to enjoy the quiet. MPH. The woman humphed through her gag as she unconsciously pressed herself up against her friend. Naughty girl. Kurenai grinned down at the helpless woman. I think you're really starting to develop a fetish. The woman beneath her flushed crimson as she carefully rubbed her thighs together as much as she could considering their spread position, even as she shrugged lightly. So then, after much debate, Kurenai responded, Anko-chan and I have decided that you most certainly did not get carried away last night, Uruka-sama, and that a repeat is indeed in order. MMMHMMHMM. Anko eagerly added. Oh, and your girlfriend would like to inquire where you got all that stamina from, the red-eyed woman remarked casually. Spend a few years chasing after Naruto after his pranks, the man responded with a shrug. You pick up stamina by necessity. Ah yes, the woman responded sagely, I imagine that would do it. So, Uruka-sama. The man stressed the last part, a carefully arched brow on his scarred face. When did that happen? I think somewhere between rounds 3 and 4, the woman responded dryly as she would lightly stroke her fingers against her stomach. You were very convincing. Anko was nodded rapidly, her whole body shaking in the process as she practically vibrated against Kurenai. Now Anko-chan, the man responded carefully, did you want this to become a more permanent thing? The woman paused a moment, as if in deep, careful thought, causing Kurenai to give her a slap to some of her more sensitive anatomy. Ignore the theatrics, she's been fantasizing about it for years. MMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMMM I simply didn't think there was anyone that could handle it. Kurenai smirked as she would lean back, casually arching as her body slid across Anko's own. Well, at least anyone that isn't currently on our genin team is far too young for us to even consider, and already has his own pair of ladies to keep up with. Well, he did already have Hinata. The man agreed lightly, though, I didn't think he'd get Ino so easily. For anyone else, Kurenai grinned wickedly, probably would never have happened. But, it's Naruto. Iruka finished for her with a soft chuckle before he looked down at her, with an arched brow. So, I think we're going to need to ungag Anko and lay down some rules for this. Kurenai stretched again, before grinning. Oh, so I know what I have to do to get punished, Iruka-sama. The man twitched lightly as he gave her a bit of a look. No, so you know what you need to not do in order to get what you want. HMPH. The woman actually pouted back at him as she carefully nibbled, sensually on Anko's neck just so he could watch. And you think, we're going to just let you? I think. The man paused a long moment, as he thought about his little talk with Naruto, that I'm rather glad Naruto taught me enough to know that yes, you are. Damn. The woman responded half-heartedly, her eyes fluttering shut as she could feel the calloused touch of his hands, moving down along her back. Shall we get to negotiations then? Yes, let's. Somewhere in Konoha days later. Kitty, puppy, do you copy? A voice crackled to life across a radio band. This is Puppy. In position. Over. A soft feminine voice rippled through the line. This is Kitty. In position. This second voice, no less feminine, but stronger, more forceful. Let's get this over with already. I want some fun time. Over. Keep your panties on, Kitty. A woman's snarky voice crackled over the radio. I know how eager you are to drop them for Big Boy, but. Ahem. The first voice crackled over the radio with a cough. I told you, I am not using that call sign. But it's so true. Puppy giggled lightly. Quote. Kitty gets first snuggle rights today. Just let me get that image out of my head. Kitty spoke up, with an almost purr to her voice. It might take a bit, I'll get back to you on it. Quote. You both are gonna get it now. The boy responded over the radio, grumbling softly, and I refuse to respond to that call sign. All right, Cuddles. The snarky voice came on again. So, is the operation good to go? Quote. I'm so taking Iruka on a guys only vacation after this, Cuddles grumbled angrily. Hey, why are you punishing us too? Kitty, somehow bringing the image of her pouting lips to mind with her tone alone. I'll allow it, a more refined woman's voice spoke up, as long as I'm allowed to chaperone. Traitor. The snarky woman's voice spat back. No, just greedy, the refined woman responded. Yeah, let's get this mission taken care of, Cuddles managed, before I end up needing a drink. Hey, first round's on me. The snarky woman responded. I'm pretty sure Iruka would object, he shot back, at least if he wasn't the one getting them off you. I love this kid to death, the snarky woman shot back, just let me prove it. Yeah, I don't think so, the boy responded. Anyway, target's coming up on you, puppy. Ready to chase it to Kitty's position. Over. Confirmed Cuddles. The girl's voice giggled back in response, herding target to Kitty's position. Over. Target is in sight, puppy. Kitty spoke up, preparing to execute capture. Over. Confirmed Kitty. Puppy spoke up, grinning eagerly. Let's get this furball under wraps so we can get back to him. Definitely, confirmed Puppy. Kitty shot back. Target has been neutralized and captured. Over. Finally, Cuddles spoke up. I say next time, we give the thing to Stinky-chan first. That's not nice, Cuddles. Kitty responded back, even if the thing deserves it. Plus, who knew she'd turn out like that? Puppy said with a note of awe in her voice. What can I say? Cuddles' voice had an audible grin to it. I inspired her. He. I noticed. Puppy responded with a grin. She's been dragging me into helping her prank Neji. All right. Cut the chatter on the comm. The snarky woman's voice snapped out with a chuckle. It's bad form. But it'll leave anyone else confused as hell, Cuddles protested. Or thinking all kinds of distracting thoughts that they really shouldn't. Kitty practically purred back. I said, can it, you pervs? The snarky voice snapped back. Like you're one to talk, the boy drawled. All that talk of, what was it? Uruka-sama. Hey. Signing off. With an audible click, the boy cut out just before the string of curses started up, his eyes twinkling with mirth as he laughed softly, then pulled out a notebook. Naruto. Cuddles. Uzumaki had things to plan. Wicked plans, the likes of which sent shivers down the spines of a variety of white-masked men and women all throughout the village. Something big was coming their way. The academy. The giggling rippled through the air like a waterfall roaring in the distance as one floated downstream. A haunting, ominous thing that promised nothing but trouble to those that heard it. Upon it reaching his ears, Uruka Yumino shrugged a bit before lightly flipping through his pages while the rest of the instructors began to panic. You know, Uruka-sensei. The giggling stifled for a moment. A voice piped up. It ruins the atmosphere when you don't start panicking like the rest of them. Hanabi-chan. The man spoke up, not even bothering to glance up from where he was grading his papers. I spent years teaching Naruto. I date Anko Mitarashi. I sleep with her. Do you think, for a moment, you've got anything that will make me panic like them? Well, no. The pout on Hanabi's face was practically audible, but a girl likes to be appreciated for her skills. That's fine. Why don't you go play with Konohamaru? The man responded as he made another note on his test. His grades have been slipping again. Ooh. The girl's pale eyes lit up. Does this mean I get to remind him to be a better student? I was thinking more along the lines of reminding him what happens when he tries to emulate Naruto so poorly. The man drawled with a chuckle. By the way, nice trap on those paint bombs, you're getting better. Ah, thank you, Uruka-sensei. Just remember one thing, Hanabi-chan, the man said casually. What's that, Uruka-sensei? The girl inquired innocently, just before a trio of paint bombs exploded all around her, covering her in green paint. I know how to fight back. The man didn't even crack a smirk as he continued grading the test papers. Have fun with Konohamaru, Hanabi-chan. I will, Uruka-sensei. The green-colored girl giggled again, before she raced off, leaving a trail of green paint behind her. Quote. I can't believe you did that to Hiyashi Hyuga's daughter. There was a note of frightened awe in the other teacher's voice as he stared at Uruka. The man finally looked up as he finished the last paper. Oh, I just got permission to fight fire with fire. Do you think the rest of us could get that? The man said hopefully. No, not really. Uruka casually responded as he straightened the papers. Naruto doesn't like the rest of you very much. He paused, offering the man a cold smile. Enjoy your lunch. I don't think Hanabi-chan managed to get a hold of yours this time. The scar-faced man paused for a moment, before looking back at the nervously pale teacher. Of course, I didn't watch her the whole time. She's getting sneakier, that one. Again, he paused, a rather sweet little smile on his lips. Gets it from Naruto. Turning again, Uruka made his way out of the school and headed towards Ichiraku's ramen stand. All this reminiscing was making him hungry. Outside, a shivering Konohamaru was nervously twitching as he looked this way and that, jumping at almost the slightest of sounds, his flesh pale and his eyes sunken. He sat, shivering in fear as he stared at the bento in front of him. Had she gotten to it? Was it safe? Did he even dare open it? He wasn't certain. He didn't know if he could even take the risk. The last few weeks had been a nightmare. Prank after prank, unrelenting, unstopping, all accompanied by that singular, haunting sound. Then, he heard it, the telltale sound of the damned being given notice. The giggling of Hanabi Hyuga. Oh Konohamaru. Instantly he tensed again, his eyes widening, hoping, searching for the figure so he knew which way to run, before it was too late. Then, she was in front of him, smiling her happy little smile as she giggled down at him. Hello Kon-kun. I heard you've been a bad boy again. Letting your grades slip like that. No more. The boy desperately pleaded. Please, no more. His voice broke into a pathetic whimper. I can't take it anymore. Ah. What's the matter Kon-kun? The girl casually plopped down, covered in that vivid green paint as she casually threw an arm around his shoulder, spreading the paint onto his clothes. I thought you wanted to play with me. Play. The boy almost shouted. Not end up in a war zone. Hey. The girl grinned. Nah, this isn't a war zone. Besides, they're just pranks. Best way to start sharpening our ninja skills and have fun at the same time while we're still kids. Do I look like I'm having fun? The boy almost screamed back. No, you look like you're a poke away from a nervous breakdown. The girl smiled back. What, didn't expect me to be this good him? The boy shuddered again as she curled up, shivering wildly as he would half whimper again, not responding with words as he struggled to avoid her gaze. And just think, we've still got years, and years together. Hanabi chirped happily as she giggled again. Maybe I'll be lucky enough to be like Naruto-kun and get some B-ranked missions testing ninja before graduating. Quote. I liked you better when you were a stiff, stuck-up bitch, Konohamaru mumbled. Then all I had to worry about was you screaming at me after I pranked you. The boy paused, before glaring at her sullenly. Not get a giggling lecture on what I did wrong. A ninja must always strive to improve themselves. The Hyuga girl grinned back. Besides, I rather like having loosened up. She thoughtfully tapped her lips for a moment. Though, it did take Naruto-kun, my sister and their teammate a good bit of time to help me to where I am now. Doesn't your father object to all this? The boy said desperately, trying to grasp onto anything for a bit of relief. I haven't seen Daddy smile so much in years actually. The girl giggled again as she flipped to her feet, then playfully began to walk up the tree the boy sat under, walking up to just over his head as she leaned forward to look into his eyes. The elders though, they've been very upset that I stopped playing by their rules. That and all the little things I've had fun doing to them. What they get for lying to me about mother. Okay. The boy said as he shifted nervously while watching her. I am however, sorely disappointed in you Konohamaru Sarutobi. Hanabi spoke up, her hands on her hips as she glared petulantly down at the boy. And here I thought you, of all people, could enjoy the new me and have fun. But no, you just had to go and be a wimpy, boring little stick in the mud. She snorted disdainfully as she crossed her arms about her chest. Iruka-sensei is more fun than you. Konohamaru flinched slightly as he looked warily up at the girl. You don't give me a break. You keep pranking me non-stop. I can't take it. Every day. Every hour almost. Bah. Quit whining. The girl grumbled. You wanna be a ninja or a weakling? I am not weak. He huffed indignantly. Meh. You're the one that keeps whining and whining and whining. The girl responded with a shrug. Yet, you don't do anything about it. The boy blinked slightly as his eyes widened at the girl. You. She reached down, jabbing her finger against his chest for emphasis. Don't fight back. She rolled her eyes, her finger poking him with each word. Seriously, how do you expect to ever become a ninja if you just sit there, waiting to get nailed? BBU but. The boy twitched a bit, shifting nervously. Naruto'll kill me. No. The girl responded quite calmly. He'd have killed you if you were pranking me when I wasn't pranking you first, or back. When you were just picking on me. She paused, looming over him from above. So, now you have a choice. She grinned wickedly down at him. Go insane and never become a ninja, let alone Hokage, or start showing you have what it takes. Giggling again, she flicked at the boy's nose before jumping and flipping neatly over his head and almost skipping back to class, leaving a rather flummoxed boy behind to stare uncertainly at her retreating form. Oh, so she wants a war. The boy narrowed his eyes then, letting a dangerous glint pass over them. Then she'll get a war, he. The Hyuga compound. How was the academy today Hanabi-chan? Hiyashi looked up from his papers, as he sipped at his tea, only arching a brow slightly at his green-splattered daughter as she smiled sunnily back at him. Oh, it was just fine, Daddy. The girl giggled in response. Uruka-sensei complimented me on how far my skills on trapping my traps were coming. Ah, I see. The man nodded as he took another sip, and the reason for your condition. He caught me. The girl responded easily, smiling again as she stretched out slowly before shrugging. I don't see why they don't encourage pranking more, it's great for building up skills. Yes, however, some people tend to not notice that particular feature. The man's lips twitched slightly, Hiroshi for instance. I do believe you finally broke him this morning, replacing his shampoo with hair remover. He paused a moment, sipping his tea again. I seem to recall he was rather proud of the condition of his hair. Oh, the girl responded innocently. I never knew. He didn't once mention it all those times he was telling me how I should act like a prim and proper woman like mother. Yes, the man actually smiled at that. Of course the other elders are furious about it. They're going around with their Byakugan active at almost all times. He paused casually. They're so busy trying to keep from being caught in their pranks, that they've almost completely stepped out of the clan's affairs. Ah, the girl grinned back at her father. I know how much you appreciate all their hard work and selfless dedication. The man snorted back a laugh as he took another sip of his tea. Yes, of course Hanabi-chan, of course. Though, it would seem they've been relaxing more and more while you're at the academy. Apparently they think that they're safer when you're not here. So they can let their guards down. Tisk. The girl responded with a slight frown. Why those? Insulting my pranking skills. Unforgivable. She rubbed her hands together, an evil gleam running across those pale eyes. I'll get them. Oh yes. I'll get them, but good. Ha ha hey 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 hey. I'm sure you will, honey. The man nodded as he took another sip from his tea, restraining the smile threatening to mimic his daughter's own. Anything else happened today? Oh, not much. Just started a war. The girl nodded casually as she started to walk away. Quote. Just started a war. The man paused, eyeing his daughter carefully. Freeze, explain. Oh, it's nothing, Daddy. The girl insisted, grinning back at him. I just finally think I pushed Konohamaru far enough to start fighting back. Things should start being fun now. I expect I'll be hearing from your teachers even more often now. The man paused, sipping again at his tea. Probably. The girl nodded with a wide grin. Well, except for Uruka-sensei. The girl paused a moment, before frowning. I think he's going to start sending home critiques like Naruto-kun. Good for him. The man nodded back. I was thinking of talking to the Hokage about encouraging students to take a more active role in these types of exercises. Naruto has certainly proven how effective they can be in training. Yay. Full class prank war. The girl was practically drooling over the thought, complete and utter chaos. Yay. Quote. I think I might have to rethink that proposal. The head of the Hyuga clan twitched lightly as he sipped his tea again, watching his now pouting daughter. Ah. The girl lightly kicked the ground. Go maniacal one time and everyone's afraid of you. More cautious than anything. The man shrugged a bit. Plus, we do need the academy students to graduate with their minds intact. But, it's so much more fun to be crazy. The girl grinned back at her father. Bye bye now, Daddy. I'm off to play with the elders. Have fun, sweetie. The man chuckled as he responded. And remember, he paused, his eyes suddenly gleaming wickedly. No need to worry about holding back. With them, I never do. Anbu headquarters. Code Orange. Repeat Code Orange. The words erupted across the compound, blaring at every individual as they as one felt a cold shiver running down their spines. A moment later, they knew why. Chickens were everywhere. In every room, squawking, flapping their wings around as they dashed this way and that. Small greased pigs were running around the floors, slipping through the fingers of cursing white masked figures. And somehow, in the middle of the training room, a single, solitary cow was munching on a roll of hay left out for it to feed on. A purple-haired woman stood there, her arms crossed as she lightly tapped a finger against her arm, as a single unmasked Junin stood next to her, coughing slightly. Huh. Looks like another performance review. Yes, I can see that. The woman nodded slightly, twitching underneath her mask as a greased pig ran between her legs, followed by a lunging Anbu lunging after it. Said Anbu suddenly found a pair of swords pressed against his body, one at his throat, held in the hand of the Junin, the other, pressed firmly between the man's legs. Instantly freezing, the man let out a startled squeak as he let the pig squirm loose from his grip and continued darting across the room. The unmasked Junin looked down at the man and coughed again. I do believe, you're somewhere you shouldn't be. The man nodded carefully, making certain not to press too firmly against the razor-sharp blade pressed to his throat as the Anbu woman growled in turn. Then, why are you still there? Because if I try to go anywhere else. The man trailed off carefully gesturing to the swords pressed against his skin. Before either sword wielders could respond, a pair of chickens suddenly flew into their faces, batting them with feathers and dulled claws as one managed to tangle itself in the woman's hair. Growling, the swordswoman removed the blade from her coworker and started trying to push the flapping avian away from her purple hair. The Junin next to her managed to bat the chicken, assaulting his face to grab hold of the neck of the one attacking her and pulling it away, and painfully tugging her hair in the process. It was then that the second stage of the prank began, as multiple copies of a whistling Naruto could be seen, practically bounding through the building, throwing tags onto both the Anbu forces and the animals themselves. Moments later, the soft puffs of paint exploding out of the tags could be heard as vivid colors splattered all over the various animals and ninjas. In the middle of it all, the Junin and the Anbu woman next to him simply stared as one Naruto calmly walked up to them. Huh, well, this is going better than expected, the boy commented lazily as he stretched out. Though, seriously, he paused, T.S. King lightly as he gave them a look. That's not a good thing for your reviews. We're off duty, the woman shrugged a bit, and we were about to head on a date. Ah, of course, the Naruto nodded as he looked around. We'll just say you were already out on your date then, though, you might want to get going. Right, the man coughed softly as he looked at the woman. Shall we then? The woman agreed with a nod, before the pair of them disappeared in a swirl of leaves, leaving the chaos behind them as the Naruto TSKED again then looked around the room, before sighing, you guys do realize this is just a distraction, right? The Anbu froze where they were attempting to catch the various animals racing about the room, just in time to see a trio of figures racing off, as the boy sighed again, tisk tisk. This isn't going to look good for y'all. If they make it to the wall, you guys fail your reviews. Instantly, the sensation of every eye widening at once rippled through the room, as the Naruto pulled out a watch and looked it over. You do realize you only have maybe 10 minutes or so before they reach the wall, right? The rush of figures suddenly trampled over the Naruto, causing it to vanish in a puff of smoke as a mass of Anbu personnel raced out of the headquarters all as one. And directly into a series of glue and feather tags that left them once more Konoha's feather dusters. The trio of figures paused again, looking back at the group expectantly before shaking their heads with a sigh. They fell for it, the first figure spoke up. So I see, chimed the second. Rather sad, isn't it? Added the third. Yes, rather, the first agreed. This is going to be a long review, isn't it? Sighed the second. Most definitely, nodded the third. Ah well, shall we then? Off we go. The first nodded as the trio raced down the streets, followed moments later by the now thoroughly enraged and feathered Anbu forces. In his tower, the Hokage chuckled as he watched the unfolding scene, his eyes alight with delight as he observed the series of tricks the boy was pulling on the group, as well as the careful distractions his teammates were setting up. It was honestly a delight to watch the boy work. Though, again, it was quite disappointing how easily he was able to overcome the various Anbu forces with simple diversion and misdirection. He wondered if any of them would even notice the variety of different surprises the boy had left after they'd almost completely abandoned the headquarters en masse. Ah well, if they didn't notice themselves, it served them right to learn the hard way. Grinning softly, he focused in on another scene in particular, where a Naruto was busy jotting down notes from a nearby rooftop as a triumphant, though quite feathered Anbu was approaching him from behind. Got you, you slick bastard. The man said triumphantly as he loomed over the boy. Sorry, the boy responded, not even bothering to look up as he continued to jot down notes into the notebook before him. Observational clone number 23. I'm not part of the exercise, I'm merely recording and taking notes for the review. Yeah, right. You're coming with me, kid, the man said as he roughly grabbed hold of the boy's arm. Now. And, You do realize that interfering with a B-ranked mission issued by the Hokage himself isn't something taken lightly, correct? The boy asked, looking down at the man's arm before looking back up at him, arching a brow casually. You are coming with me, the man growled out, his eyes flashing beneath his mask. Got it, you little demon brat. Oh, you really shouldn't have said that. The clone tsked softly and shook his head. Now you're in for it. Oh yeah, and what are you gonna do about it? The man snarled back. You do realize I'm a shadow clone, right? The boy responded, before shaking his head. Or, are you just so stupid that you don't realize exactly what that means? That's it. The man growled, then roughly slammed his fist into the boy's face, causing him to vanish in a puff of smoke. The man paused a moment, before exactly what the boy had said dawned on him, especially when a moment later, a rather excessive number of copies of Naruto suddenly surrounded him. Oh, shit. Yeah, once one of us goes poof, we all know what he did. The sound of cracking knuckles was heard all around the man. Oh, and you fail your performance review. Quote. Double shit, the man bemoaned, just before the swarm was upon him. When it cleared, the man had been stripped down to his boxers and mask, his body, completely hogtied. As he sweated nervously, he was treated to the sight of another clone picking up the notebook and continuing where the first had left off, as the rest of the clones took off to various different locations, vanishing from sight. Are you just going to leave me like this? The man demanded, ignoring the aches in his body. Oh no, the clone responded, continuing to take the notes, but the rest of your punishment is going to wait until the review is over. The blonde boy paused, before turning his head, grinning viciously at the man. After all, what's the fun of making an example out of you, if no one sees it? The man broke back a whimper as he struggled futilely against the chakra-bound ropes, the feeling of dread in the pit of his stomach only growing. A predatory grin from the clone didn't help much either. Back in the streets, madness ensued as a mess of white feathered figures raced along the streets, almost blindly chasing after the three figures as one managed to pull ahead, almost catching them as the group managed a good 30 feet lead on the rest of the group. After turning a sharp corner, the rest of the crowd was briefly cut off from sight of the fleeing three and their closest pursuer. When they turned the corner, they found themselves at a fork in the road, their lead pursuer standing there in a daze. Which way did they go? Someone from the group shouted at the seemingly confused-looking man. He looked back at them a moment, his masked face unreadable before he raised his arms, then crossed them about his chest, pointing in both streets. They went that away. For a moment the group paused in confusion, uncertain what to make of the odd directions, before the group split, attempting to follow both paths. Unfortunately, as it worked out, people ended up attempting to head to the opposite fork, causing the group to fall over themselves in confusion. The man looked at the group of fallen nins and canted his head lightly to the side. Huh. The figure shrugged, before picking up a bag at his feet, then jumping into the group. Bonsai. No one noticed him making a hand sign in midair, releasing a technique just before he landed in the group, and the pink paint bombs in the bag exploded, covering the group in a brilliant swath of color. At the side of the street, a blonde-haired girl suddenly jerked her head up from where she seemed to have been napping and blinked at the group. She couldn't help but immediately start giggling as she watched the Anbu struggle back to their feet before attempting to give chase once more. Back at the now deserted Anbu headquarters, the various animals left behind suddenly transformed into shadow clones as they grinned at one another and quickly went to work. Everything was rearranged and moved, tidied, but visibly altered. When the group did finally return, despondent at their failure, they realized the greater mistake they'd made in not leaving anyone behind to protect their headquarters. Left neatly there in the room was another table full of ramen, and another, far thicker performance review waiting for their perusal. Elsewhere, the Junin and Anbu couple blinked slightly as they watched a group of clones carrying a nearly Anbu through the street, heading straight towards the academy. Blinking towards his female companion, the Junin spoke up, "Isn't that?" "Yes, I do believe it is," the woman nodded in agreement. "You don't think he was stupid enough to?" "Yes, I do believe he is," she nodded simply and succinctly. "Huh." The man coughed softly before shrugging. "What he gets then?" "Indeed," the woman agreed. "Pass the dango." "Oh, this." The man blinked a moment, holding up a stick as he gave her a weak smile, then pulled her over onto his lap. It's easier this way. Yes, I do believe you're right, she agreed, then nuzzled into his neck with a smile. Shall we get back to our date, and ignore the stupidity of our comrades? The man offered as he held the dango stick up to the purple-haired woman's lips. Let's, she agreed, taking a bite before getting nice and comfortable against his chest. The Hokage himself blinked at the 5 reports that were dropped off on his desk by a group of clones, who grinned, and supplied him with 2 bowls of ramen before pointing to the note atop the reviews, and disappearing. As he read the note, he merely chuckled before making a very familiar hand sign. When the smoke cleared and 5 copies of Sarutobi popped into existence, the man himself began to happily eat his ramen as the shadow clones went to work, going over the performance reviews. Some days later, Training Ground 28. Neji Hyuga. The words echoed through the forested training ground, a whisper that couldn't quite be ignored. Instantly the pale-eyed boy tensed, his blood limit activating as he scanned the area for the source. Who's there? The calmness of his words struggled against the gnawing worry that echoed inside of him. All he could see was his teammates and instructor. Neji. What's going on? The bun-haired Tenten spoke up, eyeing the Hyuga warily as she looked around herself. Who's calling you? Neji. Hyuga. Your time has come. Again the words came, twisting through the air with their haunting echo. The boy in question froze for a moment, before he glared back into the forest. You won't take me, Naruto-sama. You might have gotten Hinata-sama and Hanabi-sama, but you won't get me. The rest of his team looked back at him, at what passed for a look of almost panic in those pale eyes as they nervously began to eye the forest themselves. Yosh. What is it, my rival Neji? The thick-browed Rock Lee asked excitedly, his eyes looking around. Something for us to test our youthfulness against. Actually, we're just here for Neji, the voice came back in a bland voice, echoing around them. Sorry. But surely you will not deny my team a test of their youthfulness. The towering Junin instructor proclaimed, for if we cannot aid our teammates, all. Whatever else the man might have said, was cut off, as a scroll dropped from the air, directly onto his head, before bouncing off and landing in his hands. Blinking in surprise, the teacher slowly opened up the scroll before his eyes widened slightly before looking down at Lee and Tenten. I am sorry, my most youthful students, but our most unyouthful companion is to be punished for his most unyouthful actions against his cousin. Really? Tenten blinked. What did he do? Wordlessly, the super bushy-browed guy handed the scroll over to the girl, watching as she read through the scroll, blinking a moment before scowling lightly at her teammate. He did what? Neji blinked a moment, before making note of the expression of righteous anger flooding Tenten's face, his panicked expression only growing in response. Really, Tenten-san, there's a perfectly. Any further response the boy would have made, was promptly cut off as string of kunai began to fly towards the pale-eyed boy. As the scroll fell to the ground, Lee picked it up himself and began to read through the contents. Blinking again, he stared, in open-mouthed shock at his teammate, unable to properly articulate the words to respond. Stepping into view, Hinata and Hanabi Hyuga blinked slightly as they watched Tenten viciously attempt to turn their cousin into a pin cushion before giggling softly to themselves. After a moment, Hinata coughed softly into her hand as her sister continued to giggle. Tenten-san. The bun-haired girl blinked and paused a moment, a kunai poised to release as she looked towards the pale-eyed girls. Yes, Hinata-san. While I'm sure that we all appreciate your enthusiasm, the girl smiled as her sister giggled even more for a moment. We do need him in relatively one piece. Oh, Tenten blushed brightly as she quickly gave the girl a bow. Sorry about that. No worries. Hanabi spoke up, before grinning as she darted over to the girl and gave a conspiratorial stage whisper to the girl that everyone could hear. Wanna see pictures of how he learned respect? If it was possible, Neji paled even further, his eyes widening as he gulped out. Hanabi-sama, there's no need to do that. Tenten blinked at Neji's pallid response before she turned back to the girl. It would seem I most certainly do. Grinning madly, the young girl scampered over, climbing onto the surprised girl's back, clinging there, just over her shoulder as she pulled the photos out so she could look at them over the girl's shoulder. Here. Hey. Blinking a bit at the expressly familiar demeanor of the girl, Tenten took the photos somewhat warily before beginning to flip through them. Suddenly blushing bright crimson, she stared at the contents, looking over at Neji again, before blushing even brighter, flipping more slowly, but steadily through the photos as Hanabi whispered above her ear, he really taught Neji-san the meaning of the term respect. Right, Neji-san. The man flinched, visibly still pale as he would nod, sweat building across his cheeks. Yes, Hanabi-sama. Now Neji-san. Hinata spoke up, walking over to the boy and smiling sweetly at him. I do believe you're familiar with these. She held up a collar and leash. Why yes, Hinata-sama. If possible, the boy was getting even paler as he responded. Good boy. She practically purred. Now, you're in luck. Sasuke-kun is out on a mission for the time being, so he's not here. Relief flooded across the boy's features as he would reluctantly take the collar, looking at it a long moment before pleading with her with his eyes. Now Neji-san, the girl tsked audibly, you wouldn't want Naruto-kun to think you're being disrespectful, would you? Yes, you wouldn't want that, would you, Neji? A voice whispered through the training ground, causing the dark-haired boy to stiffen again and quickly shake his head as he pulled and strapped the collar about his throat. Good boy. Hinata smiled visibly as she petted her taller cousin atop his head, then gave the leash a light little tug. Come along. As Hinata began to lead the boy off, Hanabi quickly spoke up, Big sister. Can we take Tenten-chan here with us? I'm sure she'd love to help. Blushing brightly still, Tenten quickly shifted her eyes from Hinata then towards her instructor. If Guy-sensei doesn't mind. Yosh. The man stuck his thumb up towards the girl, smiling broadly. Tenten shines brightly with the flames of youth. Go. Help your companion restore his youthfulness and redeem his most unyouthful actions. Oh, I suppose, Hinata offered demurely before offering the leash to the bun-haired girl. Would you like to be the one to hold on to this? Why yes. Yes I would. Tenten grinned wickedly as she took the leash from Hinata, then adjusted Hanabi slightly against her back, carrying the girl pigback style as she led her teammate like a pet. All Neji could do was lower his head in shame as he marched on, feeling the sensation of impending doom falling down his spine with each step. Some days later, I hope Team 7 gets back soon, Sakura grumbled as she idly watched Choji munching away. It's been getting boring without Kiba to lighten things up. What? No troublesome whining about Sasuke-kun. Naruto laughed where he sat with Ino perched on his lap this time and Hinata snuggled up at his side. Shikamaru blinked a bit then glared at Naruto, quite being troublesome Naruto. Blushing Sakura shrugged a bit before leaning back. Well, it's kinda pointless for me to be all squealing over a gay guy, isn't it? She blushed again as the image popped up in his head, a bit of blood trickling out of her nose as an image appeared before her. Oh boy. Ino rolled her eyes as she leaned back comfortably against Naruto, pulling his arm about her waist. Forehead's gone again. Hey Choji, give her a nudge would you? Fine Ino, the big boned boy grumbled as he nudged his teammate lightly. Troublesome girl. Is everyone going to keep being so damn troublesome? Shikamaru grumbled lightly as he turned his lazy glare towards his best friend now. Probably. Naruto chimed in with a grin as he nuzzled lightly against Ino's neck while he lightly caressed against Hinata's side, but, I'm kinda enjoying not having Kiba about. That's just because you're tired of him drooling in jealousy Naruto-kun, Hinata spoke up with a giggle as she snuggled in closer to her two teammates. Well, yes, there is that, the blonde boy admitted with a nod and a sheepish grin. I don't see how you two can just share like that. Sakura stared at her best friend and the blonde's teammate. It's just weird. But Hinata-chan's so cute. Ino grinned back at her best friend as she would lightly pull her teammate's head down against her lap, lightly stroking the rapidly blushing girl's hair. I mean, look at the way she blushes. Ino-chan. The girl in question whined lightly in protest as she helplessly gave into the steady stroking of her hair, pouting lightly. Oh, hush. The blonde girl in question grinned as she grinned at the Hyuga girl. You're cute, deal with it. You're both cute. Naruto spoke up underneath both girls as he chuckled a bit. So, moving on. I have no idea how you can manage such troublesome girls, Naruto, Shikamaru drawled as he lay his head on the table, earning himself a glare from Ino. I've been stuck with Ino since we were kids. I'm glad you got her, not us. Hey. Naruto chuckled a bit. She's not that bad. You just have to know how to handle her. Oh, and you think you know how to handle me? Ino almost purred as she looked saucily over her shoulder. arching a brow challengingly to her teammate. I can prove it right here and now if you want, the boy responded with a sweet smile while he would lightly let his fingers caress through Hinata's hair as he ran his fingers atop Ino's own. The girl immediately blushed and looked away, grumbling lightly under her breath about troublesome boys, earning her a hurt glare from Shikamaru. You too. Oh hush Shika. The girl grunted just a bit as she looked at her friend, before squirming slightly as she looked down at Hinata. Okay, so maybe Naruto-kun does know how to handle me. Though. Ino suddenly giggled as she winked down at Hinata. Should we tell them what our dads have been up to? Hinata blushed crimson as she turned her head, burying her face into Ino's lap as she gave a muffled response. I don't know how you found out about that. Some of the girls dropped dad off one night. Ino giggled wickedly, her eyes gleaming. Man, that was funny. I had to tell them to wait until he was sober to take advantage of him. Team 8 stared at Team 10, before blinking slightly and shaking their heads. Okay, do we even want to know? I don't know about you guys, but I sure do. A familiar voice sounded out as Kiba's eager face appeared, just before he slid into the booth. After the mission we had, I could use some juicy news. Oi dog face. Ino grumbled as she leaned back resignedly against Naruto's chest. When do you guys get back? Just now. We figured we'd come and see if you guys were here, so Spanky could give his big news. The Inuzuka made a slight face as he tried to slide in next to Hinata, only to get a withering glare from both girls that sent him sheepishly to the other side of the booth. Ah. Sakura blinked slightly as she scooted over to sit on the other side of Naruto while everyone made room for the rest of Team 7. What's Sasuke's big news? Yo. Shino spoke quietly as he sat down next to Kiba, before everyone's attention turned towards two nervous figures that stood at the edge of the table. Grinning sheepishly, Sasuke had his arm around the waist of a very pretty, feminine figure with long dark hair as his free hand lightly ran through his hair. Hey guys. This is Haku, my boyfriend. Ino blinked a moment, then couldn't help but laugh. Wow, he's prettier than your forehead. Shut up Ino pig. Sakura shot back even as she blushed a vibrant crimson in embarrassment. Huh. Naruto blinked slowly, canting his head to the side as he would hold Ino against his chest. Hate to say it, but I think she's right Haruno. The boy paused a moment, before smiling innocently. Though, after Neji, I can't say I'm surprised you'd go after a femi boy, Spanky. Haku blushed brightly where he stood, before looking back at Naruto with careful dark eyes. You would be. Naruto. Was it my sparkling good looks, or the girls that gave it away? Naruto winked with a laugh as he ran his fingers through Hinata's hair. More like I told him you're the only guy crazy enough to call me that, Sasuke said with a glare as he grumbled a bit, tightening his hand about Haku's waist. Move over already, Kiba will go all homophobic whiny on us if I sit near him. Sure. Just don't think you're getting out of telling this story, Naruto agreed as he shifted himself and his girls over with a smirk, noticing the uncomfortable look on Kiba's face. Hey, it's not homophobic. The boy protested. I just don't want to get stabbed again. Wow. Tried to put the moves on Sasuke's boyfriend dog face. Ino asked curiously. Wah. No. Kiba immediately protested. He uses needles. Almost killed me with them. You got better. Sasuke grinned at his teammate as he pulled the still blushing Haku onto his lap, and it was the most peace and quiet we got the whole mission. Quite true. Shino agreed quietly with a nod. Traitors. Kiba whined. I get the feeling this is a long, convoluted story. Naruto said sagely. Does it end with me not being able to hold the threat of you over Neji's head, Spanky? Why? Haku spoke up, adjusting his kimono lightly as he leaned back against Sasuke with a blush. Do you call Sasuke-kun, Spanky? Ooh. He didn't tell you. Hinata suddenly spoke up right next to the pair, her pale eyes gleaming. Damn, Hanabi-chan and Tenten-chan still have the photos. Sasuke paled immediately as he began to make repeated coughing sounds. No need to get those. Oh yes, your boyfriend is quite the deviant, Ino said with a nod, taking advantage of helpless shinobi and abusing their poor asses to teach them the meaning of the term, respect. Quote. Like you're one to talk about deviance, Ino, Sasuke grumbled while Haku only blushed brighter. Of course I am. The blonde girl grinned back at the dark-haired boy innocently. Want me to see Hinata-chan go down on Naruto-kun right here while I go down on her? Immediately, The four boys her exploded into shocked, coughing fits, staring with bugged-out eyes at the innocent expression on Ino's face, while Hinata blushed crimson and Naruto just rolled his eyes. At least, until Kiba spoke up. I don't know about him, but I sure as hell do. Why am I not surprised? Ino rolled her eyes before pulling the wickedest grin she could across her lips, then slipped down underneath the table with an exaggerated wiggle to her eyebrows. His eyes bugging out, Kiba quickly ducked his head underneath the table, only to find himself staring at a kunai pointed directly at his nose. URK. Now, Kiba, Ino practically purred, don't you know that kitties like me don't like dumb, drooling little dog faces like you? She casually tapped the top of the blade against the boy's nose before continuing, so, from now on, behave, and don't make me have to cut something of, What about cute puppies like me, Ino-chan? Hinata spoke up, a pout audible in her words before she could feel Ino's face rubbing up against her leg. Oh, you're absolutely edible, Hinata-chan, the girl responded easily. I was talking about dirty, smelly little mutts like this one, instead of such cute, cuddly little puppies like you. Hey, Kiba growled softly as he glared back at the smirking Ino, before his eyes widened as he watched her nuzzling up between both Naruto and Hinata's legs. Haku blushed brightly as he watched the actions of the trio next to him, before flicking his dark eyes over to Sasuke. Is that normal for them? The dark-haired boy shrugged softly as he would lightly rest his chin on his boyfriend's shoulder. Nothing is normal. I'm fairly certain the blondes are exhibitionists, and they're slowly corrupting Hinata into their way of thinking. Hey, Naruto protested, we were completely innocent until after we met her. Naruto-kun. Hinata blushed brightly as she unconsciously spread her legs a bit for Ino and curled back against her male teammate's chest. How can you say that? Well, it is technically true. The boy protested, before grinning lightly. I met you before Sensei started training me, so I was innocent until I met you. Well, I suppose I did technically meet Hinata-chan while I was still innocent. Ino tapped lightly on her chin, before she slowly pushed her slender body up, sliding underneath the table as he body pushed up against Hinata, pressing the girl even more firmly into Naruto as she squirmed about, forcing the girl's legs spread out even more as she settled in front of her on the boy's lap. So, I suppose. No fair. Hinata pouted softly, her lips curling down into a frown even as she would wrap her arms around her female teammate. What am I supposed to do when you two team up on me like that? Sit there and enjoy it. Ino responded with a sensual wink as she settled against the girl. I concur with my fellow blonde. Naruto agreed with a grin. Hinata-chan sandwiches are fun. So, how'd Spanky end up with such a cute boyfriend? Ino continued, casually stroking her fingers against where Naruto's arm held them both. Oh, well. Haku blushed brightly as he looked down, shifting just a bit in a way that managed to send a flush across the normally tightly controlled Uchiha's face. It's kind of complicated. Meh. Kiba spoke up with a shrug. He was raised by the missing nin that was hired to kill the guy we were hired to protect. Huh. Naruto blinked, pausing his ministrations as he looked over at the Shino's confirming nod. You guys were only supposed to be on AC rank. What happened? Our client couldn't afford a properly ranked mission, so lied about what we'd be facing. Shino observed simply. The mission has since been declared an A- rank mission. And we will eventually be paid accordingly. Yeah. Kiba smirked before flashing a grin towards a shocked-looking Sakura. We're gonna be the only rookies with such a bad mission record. You might not want to go around saying that, Kiba. Sakura spoke up. You'll end up attracting attention and making yourself a target. Tisk. Let the mutt deal with his own mouth. Shikamaru shrugged as he lay his head down on the tabletop. It's too troublesome to bother with. Yeah. Besides, Ino spoke up with a slow, growing smirk. It's not like you've got the most impressive mission record out of all the genin teams. She paused a moment before her eyes glinted. Hell, you don't even have the best record of the teams here. What? Think a bunch of crappy D-rank missions match up to our A rank? Kiba almost sneered back at her with a smug expression on his face. Ino paused in her response, before sending a look back at Naruto. Performance review. Naruto and Hinata grinned ferally in return and quickly nodded their heads in agreement as Naruto responded. Performance review. Sakura and Choji both immediately paled at the blondes. Words as Shikamaru slowly raised a brow, glancing at the two before laying his head down once more. Tisk. troublesome sense of impending doom. Sorry Spanky, Hinata said apologetically, you should really keep a better muzzle on your mutt. Did you say something? Sasuke blinked as he looked up from where he'd been nibbling on the nape of Haku's pale, but blushing neck. Performance review. Choji spoke up, his eyes alight with delight as he leaned back, happily munching on his food. On who? The boy blinked again, lightly tightening his grip on Haku's waist. Your team, thanks to Kiba, Naruto spoke up with a grin. Instantly, Sasuke paled as he turned his eyes onto Kiba and just glared at the blinking boy. Couldn't you learn to keep your damned mouth shut? Huh, what's the big deal? The feral boy blinked a moment. You guys are acting like I brought about the end of the world or something. No, simply abject and public humiliation for our team, Shino spoke up simply, along with a detailed report of exactly what we did wrong. Wah. Kiba blinked at Shino. Look you troublesome mutt, Shikamaru grunted as he spoke up. Their team, he gestured towards the three cuddling together, has the best mission record out of any genin team. They regularly pull of B ranks, and even have several A ranks under their belt. One of the things they've also got, is a special commission from the Hokage to test any ninja or group of ninjas they want for performance reviews. What's the big deal? Kiba shrugged, it's just Naruto and a couple of girls. Sasuke paled even further as he looked quickly at Naruto. Hey, the opinions of the idiot do not reflect those of the rest of our team. We in no way agree with or endorse his claims and or any of the words coming out of his mouth. Indeed, Shino agreed with a sage nod. True I suppose, Naruto agreed with a slow nod, before grinning wickedly, but, you've got Kakashi as your instructor. And public reading Ika heathens must pay. Oh boy, here we go again. Sasuke groaned softly. Anyway, you wanted to know about Haku-kun, right? You have interesting friends, Sasuke, Haku said, delicately. Naruto and the girls aren't too bad. The Uchiha shrugged a bit as he nuzzled against the boy in his lap. He just tends to be rather enthusiastic. And devilishly clever. Naruto grinned. I once dyed Sasuke's hair pink, and it took him a whole day to realize it. Ooh, I remember that. Ino giggled as she looked over at a blushing Sakura. It was the day Sakura followed you around mumbling about being destined to be together. Gah. Don't remind me. Sasuke flinched. Fangirls, You were stalking my Sasuke. Haku's eyes suddenly went hard as he glared across the table at Sakura, the room temperature dropping noticeably. Not anymore. The pink-haired girl quickly protested. I'm done with that. Honestly. Yo, Haku, Kiba said with a shiver. Lay off the ice bitch act already, we don't wanna end up ninja sickles. Oh, sorry, Haku blushed again as suddenly the temperature rose again. Huh, that's an interesting technique, Naruto spoke up, looking curiously over at Sasuke's boyfriend. It's actually a bloodline limit, Sasuke spoke up proudly while Haku suddenly flinched at the term and lightly pulled away from his chest. Cool, the blonde boy spoke up before looking at Haku curiously. Something wrong with having one, Haku-san? I suppose not, but, the feminine boy shrugged softly. In Mist, people don't. Bloodlines are considered a very bad thing. Hey, you do realize that half the people at this table have something at least resembling a bloodline limit if not an actual one. The grinning blonde countered, Sasuke and Hinata-chan here being the most obvious of course. I'm just not used to being so open about it. The boy shrugged lightly in his kimono as he leaned carefully back against Sasuke. It's caused problems for me in the past. So, how badly did you beat them up then? Naruto grinned wickedly as he suddenly changed the subject, those brilliant blue eyes of his gleaming with a wicked delight. What? Kiba growled. Who tall? I mean, what the hell are you talking about, Naruto? Hey. Naruto grinned as he saw the blush on Sasuke's face. I know, because I know the kind of guys that interest Spanky here. Since I'm the only one, other than Haku, here that he's been interested in. Oh, the feminine boy blinked as he studied Naruto closely. You are cute of course, but. I beat him up. Naruto grinned as he would waggle his eyebrows back at Haku. Spanky's got a few up issues. Completely understandable really, but, he's still up in the head. Naruto. Instantly the Uchiha began to growl at the boy sitting next to him. Hey, I'm up in the head too. The boy grinned back. So are most of the people here. If we weren't, we couldn't be more than average ninja. Are you saying I'm up in the head too, Naruto-kun? Ino casually asked, her eyes locking onto his with a glinting spark. Absolutely. Naruto grinned back. If you weren't, you wouldn't have gotten so much enjoyment out of what we've been doing to Neji. Oh. The girl blinked a moment, before tilting her head lightly to the side with a grin on her face. So that means you think I can be really powerful too, huh? Well, there was that thing you did during the ANBU's performance review, he agreed with a smirk. PSH, that old thing. The girl grinned wickedly before getting comfortable. Hold me, would you, Hinata-chan? Sure, Ino-chan. The girl smiled as she wrapped her arms firmly about the blonde's waist even as Ino made her hand signs, then suddenly slumped back against the Hyuga's chest. All right. Who are you hiding as, Ino-chan? Naruto smirked a bit as he would lightly let his blue eyes sparkle with amusement. What da? Kiba blinked before suddenly grabbing his dog, Akamaru. No. As the rest of the group stifled their laughter, they watched the golden stream splashing across Kiba's face, as well as the wetness that was quite obvious on the front of the boy's jacket. The dog barked happily, wagging his tail in response. Immediately, the rest of the table began to laugh at the boy, chuckling as the dog finished relieving itself before it licked Kiba's face. Okay, so we know that she's definitely not Akamaru, Naruto chuckled. What are you talking about? Kiba growled. She's gotta be in him. No way Ino-chan would have licked your face, Hinata countered. Akamaru's probably just taking the opportunity to get back at you for something. Indeed, Shino nodded, while scooting away from his teammate. However, I would appreciate if you would please go and clean yourself up, Kiba. Not everyone appreciates the smell of wet dog. Why you? Kiba growled but nonetheless allowed himself to be let out of the booth. I'll catch up with the rest of you guys later. As the boy glared at his pet while walking away, Shino looked around the group. Now the question still remains, who is Ino? Hey, well, there's one way to tell. Naruto said casually. And what's that? Sasuke said curiously as he stroked his fingers against Haku's kimono. Chocolate Hinata-chan sundae with whipped cream and cherries on top, the boy said with a slow, sweet voice, the tones dripping with implication as they teased out into the collected ears. And sprinkles. Sasuke spoke up, a trickle of blood trailing down his nose. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Ino-chan, Naruto snickered as he gestured towards Sasuke. Ah, no fair, Naruto-kun, Sasuke grumbled a bit before sighing as he raised his hand. Fine. Release. With that, Sasuke slumped slightly for a moment, while Ino slowly stretched out back into Hinata's body. Ooh, spoil my fun before I even get started, huh, Naruto-kun? I don't think Sasuke much appreciates you using his body to cop a feel on his boyfriend, Naruto countered with a smirk. I would never. Ino began before the rest of the group all simply gave her a single look. Okay, so maybe I would. Quote. Laughing softly, Naruto pushed himself forward just a bit, slipping over Hinata's shoulder to catch a kiss against Ino's cheek before looking at the rest of the group. So, what else is new? Elsewhere. Later on. So. Anko was practically purring as she curled herself against Kurenai, resting her chin on the woman's shoulder. Chunin exams are coming up soon. Yes, I know, the woman agreed as she leaned back, lightly closing her eyes as she pursed her lips. I take it you want to enter them. The brats are good, Anko responded quietly, and well, you want to show them off. Yeah, I mean, they're our students. There was a small measure of pride in her voice as she spoke. They're crazy. More trouble than the rest of the genin put together, worryingly perverted, but they're ours. Are we really ones to talk about being worryingly perverted? Kurenai countered with a slight smirk to her lips. I mean, we are technically in almost the exact same position as them. True. She paused a moment, before leaning back a bit, her brown eyes shadowing lightly. Speaking of exams, thought about trying to whip Iruka into Jonin. A bit. The admission was quiet as it slipped past Kurenai's lips. It sometimes feels like. I don't know, we're taking advantage of him. We are both his superiors after all. Yeah, I know. Anko nodded, giving a little nuzzle to her friend before laying against the couch as she looked about her friend's apartment. Think he'd punish us for ordering him around in public? Definitely. Kurenai nodded, a slight grin forming on her face. Did you have something in mind? Putting in a personal assistant request with the Hokage. Anko grinned deviously as she rubbed her hands together. Secretary Iruka. I think that's what the Hokage's been using him for. Kurenai countered with a smirk. Damn, I wanted to see him in a dress too, Anko grumbled playfully, before snickering softly, could we use him for an undercover mission at a drag queen review? Quote. You really want to get punished, don't you, Anko-chan? Red Eyes watched the giggling woman warily, uncertain about how to proceed. I'm not sure he'd be very pleased with those ideas. Yeah, I know, the woman shrugged a bit, I'm a masochist, remember? For a moment, Kurenai simply looked at her friend, watching her as she looked away just slightly, not quite able to meet her crimson gaze. Pursing her lips just a bit, she reached out, lightly cupping Anko's cheek before pulling her friend's eyes towards her own. What's wrong, Anko-chan? Nothing's wrong, the woman responded, but her eyes kept darting to the side, unable to stay on her friend's face. Things are going good for you, you've been happy. Kurenai frowned slightly as she would carefully stroke her thumb against her friend's cheek. So why are you doing this? I told you. Anko flashed her friend a plastic smile as she didn't quite look her in the eyes. I'm a masochist, I want to be punished. Stop lying to me, Anko-chan, the woman growled softly. I'm enough of a masochist to know the difference between wanting some pain and wanting to be hurt. Same thing, Anko grunted back at her. No, it's not, Kurenai responded before she firmly forced her friend's face up against her own, refusing to let her look away again. Why do you keep doing this to yourself, Anko? Why do you keep trying to punish yourself? Why do you think you have to be hurt? Why not? The woman shrugged slightly as she forced her cheek to turn, refusing to even look at the woman as she curled herself back somewhat, almost beginning to say something else before cutting off as she lightly wrapped her arms about her legs and held herself close. You know, it is okay to be happy and enjoy yourself, Anko-chan, she spoke softly as her hand reached out, lightly running through the dark hair of the other woman, stroking it softly. It's okay when things go right. Hey, Anko chuckled bitterly as she fought against the tears threatening to well within her eyes. Things don't go right for me, Nai-chan, ever. So, what do you call things with Iruka and I? She demanded in return. Waiting for the other shoe to drop, the blunt, deadened tone sent a flinch through Kurenai as she stared at her friend. Something'll happen, it always does. Anko-chan. The woman gently reached around, pulling the unresisting, but unresponsive body back over to her own. Ever since then, she spoke quietly, ever since, he did this to me, then threw me away. It's always like that. Nothing lasts, it all just turns to ash. Kurenai growled bluntly as she pulled Anko's eyes to her own. That stupid bastard. If he couldn't see how wonderful you are, that's his loss. We want you. For now, the woman said with a soft grumble in her words. Oh, hell no. Kurenai's eyes flashed as she growled back at her. You are not pulling that with me, Anko Mitarashi. I'm tired, Nai-chan. She spoke softly, quietly back to her friend, and more, I'm tired of waiting for everything to go to hell, waiting to be thrown away again. I don't want to be tossed aside anymore. You know, I thought I made it perfectly clear I wasn't in this for some fling to toss you aside, Anko-chan. A new voice suddenly broke in as Iruka quietly walked up to the pair and slid down onto the couch next to her and gently wrapped an arm about her waist. You think Naruto would have tried to hook us up if I was? Yeah, says a lot that a 13-year-old has to hook me up. The woman tried to tug away from Iruka, only to find herself gently pulled back, held against his chest as she gave only weak protests. Depends on the 13-year-old, Iruka responded as he would lightly reach up, beginning to stroke his fingers against her hair for a moment, before pulling Kurenai over, gently capturing Anko between their bodies. When it's Naruto. It says a lot about you. Gently he would kiss against her shoulder before letting his arms slip about her waist, just holding her close, that you don't deserve all the pain that's being thrown at you, that you deserve to be happy, to have fun, to be free. He paused a moment, before grinning softly. Besides, I'm the one who should be waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm the guy with two beautiful women. It's far more likely you two will dump me for each other. Didn't you know that? Not happening. Anko responded softly, shifting a bit so she lay against his chest, her arms wrapping about his chest. Mine. Then, I suggest you get used to the idea that I feel the same way about you, he responded, kissing softly atop her head, before looking up at Kurenai with a half-speculative look. Now, Kurenai, I'm not too sure about, think we should keep her. A slight grin curled on Anko's face as she shifted again, looking over her shoulder at her friend who was practically laying atop her. I don't know, she's an awful lot of trouble. And she does encourage your Kakashi cosplaying, he added with a chuckle. Hey, that's a joke, Kurenai protested. Right, what are you say Kurenai, whatever you say, the pair chimed back at her, grinning quietly in amusement. Brats, she grumbled softly before shifting and snuggling into them. So, we're gonna put our team in for the Chunin exams. Already. Iruka blinked a bit, but offered no real protests as he would gently kiss against the top of Kurenai's head. Yeah, they're ready, Anko filled in. They've already got the most impressive mission record out of any of the Genin teams, even with 7C rank bumped to A rank. Hey, did you see the Uchiha's boyfriend he picked up on that mission? Kurenai giggled just a bit as she grinned at the two. I swear, he looks prettier than any of the Genin girls. For now, yeah, Anko chuckled. Give Hinata and Ino a few years and we'll see. But, man, talk about a crazy mission. To go from trying to kill one another to that. Hey, what happened? Iruka inquired quietly. I don't get much Junin level gossip anymore. Seems they're a bit jealous that a Chunin got the two hottest kunoichi in the leaf. Oh, their client lied about their mission, Anko said casually. Turned out that Gato of the Gato Corporation had paid some missing nin to kill the guy to keep his chokehold on Wave. Ended up being the Demon Brothers and Mamachi Zabuza from Mist. The Demon of the Mist himself, huh? Iruka whistled slowly. Good thing they had Kakashi then. Indeed, Kurenai nodded as she lightly trailed her fingers through Anko's hair. So, they ended up clashing, but Zabuza turned out to have a very skilled apprentice. One of the last of the Hyouten line. Kid stronger than even the Uchiha one-on-one. If they hadn't had the Aburame to drain off his chakra, who knows how it would have ended. As it was, they managed to disable the kid, stop Zabuza, then take out Gato himself and a small army of hired bandits to ensure the village was safe. Turned out Haku, the ice user, and Sasuke had already met before their showdown at the bridge, without Sasuke knowing who the other was, and they'd hit it off. Since Haku found out Gato was planning on betraying them anyway, and his master was dead, the kid had no idea what to do. Enter the Uchiha, Iruka asked speculatively. Well, I don't know if they've gotten that far Iruka-kun, Anko giggled softly, I'm not going to intrude onto their private time. Quote. Funny, the man sighed before chuckling a bit, Sasuke could use someone like that in his life. Hopefully it'll help balance him out more. Yeah, hopefully. Kurenai agreed before grinning softly. You know, Kakashi is planning on entering his team into the Chunin exams too. So's Asuma from what I hear, Anko added with a wicked grin. What? Iruka's eyes widened. Are they crazy? It's too early for them. But it's not for Naruto. Anko smirked back. Or Hinata, or Ino. Naruto. Iruka rolled his eyes. I've seen Naruto pushing Kakashi if he's worked up enough. Since he graduated the academy, he's been pulling off B rank and A rank missions. With and without his team. He'll look after them. He paused a moment, before grinning. Plus, I'm really curious what you three have done with the girls. 3. Kurenai spoke up with a slight trace of amusement in her eyes. Yeah, you don't think Naruto hasn't been helping them as well? Iruka grinned wickedly. So what's this I hear about two Junin planning on trying to make a Chunin their secretary? Immediately the two women stiffened then stared at the man beneath them as Kurenai spoke up. How'd you? Well, admittedly I've let my combat skills slip, the man grinned quietly in response, but, I'm stealth, tracking and infiltration skills are still nothing to be ashamed of. He chuckled a bit. You have to remember, Naruto isn't the first ninja from Konoha that used his pranks to sharpen his skills. Nai-chan. Anko spoke up softly. I think we underestimated him. I think you're right Anko-chan. Kurenai nodded. You know what this means then, yes. Of course, Nai-chan. The woman nodded sagely, before her lips turned into a sadistic smirk. It means that now, we're definitely going to have to get him up to Junin level. Indeed Anko-chan. The woman nodded with a satisfied grin of her own. I suppose I don't have a say in the matter. Iruka responded with a slight twitch of his brow. You're in charge in the bedroom. Kurenai smirked back at the man. If you want to take charge somewhere else, you've gotta earn it. So Iruka-kun. Anko leaned back, whispering against his ear. You up to the challenge, or not? The man in question sighed softly before looking up at the ceiling. the things I do for the women in my life. Said women merely giggled in response, as the growing shiver of impending doom made its way coiling along his spine. Days later. So, we signed you brats up for the Chunin exams. Anko grinned her wicked grin as she looked down at the three in front of her. Better not disappoint us. Is it that time already? Naruto blinked a moment, before his head to the side. I thought we had a few more months to go. Nope. Kurenai responded with a smile. Despite Uruka's protests, all the rookies are being given the chance to enter. Quote. You're kidding, right? Ino said with a flat stare. Team 8 is going to enter. Is Asuma crazy? Hey, don't look at us. Anko shrugged slightly. You three are ready. The rest of them, it's up to their Junin instructors. You mean, lazy pervert and lazy bum? Naruto asked. We're gonna end up pulling their asses out of the fire. I just know it. Think of it as extra training. Anko just grinned at the three. Kakashi's been bragging about his team, and how they pulled it together during their C rank turned A rank, along with getting a new bloodline for the village. Hinata blinked a moment. Kakashi pervert does realize that the person said bloodline belongs to his gay, along with his Sharingan student, right? He's probably choosing to ignore that little fact. Naruto reached up, stroking his chin. I suppose they could start right in front of him and he'd finally get it through his skull. Quote. I did not need that image, Naruto-kun. Ino shivered slightly. Soccer is the yaoi freak. I like my guys to like my body, not another guy's. The blonde boy shrugged a bit before grinning. So, what all the exam gonna be like? We can't tell you that, Naruto. Kurenai tsked lightly, you know that. Not even a hint. The boy pouted softly before he would pause, suddenly grinning at the girls next to him before looking back at his teachers. Is there gonna be a chance for us to practice our conversion techniques? There might be. Anko paused, stroking her chin lightly. I take it you three have been waiting to have an actual subject to play with. Well, not that it isn't fun. Converting. Ino-chan. Naruto responded with a shrug, but, she honestly gives in. Why too quickly? Hey. Ino grumbled a bit at the statement while Hinata giggled. I last longer than Hinata-chan does. Yeah, but I also have an unfair advantage there. Naruto grinned. I've had years to learn Hinata-chan's weak spots. And he exploits them every time. Hinata pouted softly as she looked at her male teammate. Once he gets me tied up, I'm as good as gone. How about if I get you tied up, Hinata-chan? Ino grinned wickedly as she leaned in, casually whispering against the Hyuga's ear. Oh, that's easy. Hinata smiled in return, before suddenly she pulled the girl close, her fingers casually curling up, brushing against her teammate's neck before gripping it as she pulled her lips to the girl's ear. I'd just get free, and make sure I got to hear that oh so sweet sound you make just as you break. As Ino flushed crimson and gave off a soft little whimper, Anko turned to Kurenai and grinned broadly. So, Nai-chan, how'd we end up so lucky? An amazing team and floor show all in one. You forgot learning all kinds of nifty little tricks for yourselves, Naruto added casually as he half-watched Hinata run her hands down Ino's body, causing the blonde girl to weakly fall to her knees with a soft moan. Oh, by the way. Heard you two are plotting to get Iruka-sensei up to Junin. Oh, it made its way through the grapevine already. Kurenai arched a brow at that. Nope. I just heard it directly from him. Naruto smirked in response while Ino rested her panting head against Hinata's stomach, the dark-haired girl running her fingers through her hair. We still get ramen together pretty regularly. That's a good girl. Ino-chan. Hinata was casually speaking down to the panting blonde girl. Yes, little Ino kitty remembers her place, doesn't she? Bah. So much for keeping it a secret, Anko grumbled, as she forced herself not to smirk as she watched Hinata toy with her teammates so easily. What do you think, Naruto? Kitty's a good girl for puppy. Ino whimpered softly, nuzzling back into Hinata. Kitty misses her collar though. I think that those two are really trying to distract me, Naruto grunted as he jerked his thumb towards his teammates, and doing a damned good job of it. Well, in regards to Iruka, Kurenai responded with a soft smile as she chuckled a bit at the girl's game. Well, if Kitty wants her collar, she's going to have to help Puppy convince Cuddles to get it, Hinata almost purred as she ran her fingers through Ino's hair. In regards to Iruka, Naruto paused before looking at the women, I think I'm going to definitely give him lessons on how to keep teasing you two for days without letting you get off, for giving me that damned codename. Ah. But Cuddles. Anko grinned wickedly. You know you love it. You do realize I know an orgasm denial seal, right? Naruto said casually as he merely looked at the woman present. Instantly all four women froze, and Naruto found himself faced with four teary puppy dog-eyed looks directed onto him. Steeling himself against their grand assault, he spoke through gritted teeth, standing proud in defiance, and that's more likely to make me use it than not. Bah! Anko turned off the quivering gaze and shrugged slightly. You'll never get a seal like that on me. Kurenai suddenly froze then, and turned her attention onto her friend, Anko-chan. Yes. Think about what you just said, very carefully, the woman cautioned. What about what I just said? Anko blinked a moment. You just challenged Naruto to put a seal on you that will drive you up the wall in frustration, Kurenai responded slowly. It's true. Naruto nodded as he would stretch out, popping his back in a slow motion. Want a head start, Anko-chan? Quote. Can we talk this over? Anko paused, noticing the feral looks the girls were giving her. The absolutely murderous gazes didn't sit especially well with her. Nope. The boy chimed happily. Quote. Great. The woman sighed before looking at the two girls. And why are you two glaring at me? It's relatively easy to figure out, Ino started. If he uses it successfully on you, Hinata continued, how long do you think it'll be before he punishes us with it? Quote. I'm screwed, aren't I, Nai-chan? Anko almost whimpered as she looked at her friend. Quote. I'd start running if I was you, Kurenai agreed. Right. Anko immediately vanished in a swirl of leaves, followed swiftly by the genin of Team 10. It's going to be one of those weeks. Kurenai chuckled just a bit as she shook her head, leisurely making her way towards the Hokage's tower. That night, Kakashi's apartment. The silver-haired Junin lazily pushed his way into his home, his eye half closed tiredly. He made little notice of his apartment, slipping past the various traps and seals he'd lain in place with practiced ease before pushing his way into his bedroom. As he flipped on the light, he froze in shock, his single eye widening comically as he took in the sight before him. Plastered all over the walls, on the ceiling, on the bed, on the floor, were a multitude of pictures. Their subject: a rather heavy make-out session between Sasuke and Haku, with less than full clothing. The broken scream that rippled through the air was filled with outrage and displeasure, followed by a more sedately muffled, wow, didn't realize they were that flexible, before the scream continued. Ha! A grinning Konohamaru laughed as he raced through the streets, casting a grin back over his shoulder. You'll never catch me, Hanabi-chan. The boy immediately had to duck a frightfully croaking frog launched from behind as Hanabi Hyuga chased after him, her face somewhere between delighted and furious. Ooh. Just you wait, Sarutobi. They look like they're having fun, Naruto commented with a chuckle as he watched from the rooftops overhead. The frogs were a nice touch, I think. Ew. Ino grumbled softly as she shivered just a bit, but they're so gross. You'll get in a mud fight, but you protest a simple frog. Naruto's voice teased softly back at the girl as his sparkling blue eyes followed Hanabi and Konohamaru. That's totally different, she immediately protested. That's fun, dirty. He put frogs down her shirt. It worked though, Hinata spoke up, smiling softly as she watched the chase below. This is one of the first times I've seen Hanabi-chan actually gotten, instead of giggling about it in a while. True enough, Ino agreed with a nod, before smirking softly as she pointed down into the street. He even got forehead into it. Below, they could see the irate, pink-haired Kunoichi racing after the pair. Her reddened face still glistening from frog slime as she wove amongst the civilians, bumbling through them this way and that as she screeched out, "Get back here. I'm going to get you both for this." Chuckling Team 10 watched the pursuit unfold before them. As luck would have it, more often than not, Sakura found herself caught by the various trick and traps tossed back and forth between the young ninjas in training. Paint spattered her normally well-kept uniform, confetti and egg shells clung to the fabric as she bit back a strangled scream of angry frustration. Every time she came close to catching up, somehow they'd make her stumble, somehow they'd slow her down. Triple A arg. The girl almost screamed angrily as she ran a bit harder, a bit faster towards them. When I get my hands on you too. Ha ha ha. Konohamaru looked over his shoulder, almost giggling his laughter out, before suddenly he found himself colliding into another body with a fleshy thud. Oof. Hey, you damned brat, watch we. Clad in all black, the figure the boy had just run into wore an expression of anger on his painted face, before suddenly the secondary impact of Hanabi thudded into him just behind Konohamaru, throwing the off-balance figure to the ground. Damn it. Ugh. The spiky-haired boy groaned softly, looking down at the older boy beneath him sheepishly. Sorry about that. Whoopsie. Hanabi added with a giggle. I think we need to remember to pay more attention, Kun. Get off of me, damn it. The older boy almost screamed as he shoved the amused academy students off of him, reaching back towards the bandaged-covered pack on his back. Iota. We don't need the trouble. A blonde-haired girl, wearing a white battle dress and fishnets, spoke up next to the other unknown figure, a massive fan strapped to her back. That hurt, you little midgets. Standing up, the dark-covered boy snarled softly as he grabbed hold of Konohamaru, lifting him angrily into the air. Hey, I said I was sorry. Konohamaru spoke up. Hey. Sakura hesitantly spoke up. No need to get violent here. It was just a mistake. Bah. The boy snorted as he glared back at Sakura, like I'm going to listen to some stupid leaf genin. As his fist back, the blonde girl sighed, her four spiky ponytails shaking slightly. I want no part of this. Just as the dark-clothed boy started to throw his fist at Konohamaru's face, a number of things happened. The arm holding the younger boy was struck, suddenly, by the sharp point of a throwing needle, while the one throwing the punch found itself struck by a small rock. Before the dark-clothed boy could fully register what had just happened, his face found itself struck by the thick impact of a knot-tipped rope, and the crinkling of paper. As the surprised boy numbly dropped Konohamaru, the paper tag attached to the boy's cheek suddenly exploded in a burst of bright pink paint. You really should remember to play nice when you're in a new hidden village. The words came coldly from a short distance away, as two pair of cold black eyes bore down on the boy and the girl. Seated in a nearby tree, Sasuke was lightly tossing another stone in his hand as he lounged back against the trunk. Next to him, Haku daintily held another needle in his slender fingers, a brow silently arched at the pair as he watched the boy shriek in outrage. With a detached annoyance, they watched, waiting carefully in case the two on the ground made a move. Not to mention, Naruto's voice rang out, as he and his teammates silently fell to the ground in front of the pair. It's generally considered rather stupid to start attacking civilians in front of a village's nin. Especially, the frosty tone of Hinata spoke up, her pale eyes glinting harshly as she locked her gaze on the boy, the daughter of a clan head, and the grandson of the village's cage. So, Ino yawned, stretching slightly as she gave the two a lazy look. We really should take you down to the Anbu interrogation unit. Damn it, Konkuro, the girl grumbled softly as she glared at the boy. You just had to go be an idiot, didn't you? God damn it, which one of you did this to my eyes? He snarled, darkly, his eyes shut as he tried to wipe the paint away. When I get my hands on you. Your friend doesn't know when to shut up, does he? Ino casually chuckled as she watched the boy twitch, her voice directed towards the other blonde girl, casually running her eyes up and down along her frame. Though, I think we'd have more fun coming up with ways to keep you quiet than him. As the foreign blonde girl blushed furiously at the comment, Konohamaru scrambled over behind Naruto as Hanabi skipped up next to her sister and gave her an apologetic smile. Sorry about the trouble, sister. You should pay more attention to where you're going, Hinata chided lightly before offering her sister a faint smile as her gaze followed Ino's. Probably Ino-chan, probably. Which one of you? Konkuro's words were cut off, as suddenly he was struck by a squat object of black, dull rubber, smacking forcefully directly between his eyes. What the hell? The blonde with Konkuro could only stare for a moment, her mouth agape in complete shock before she turned her disbelieving eyes onto Naruto. Was that best way I know of to shut up an asshole? The blue-eyed genin responded with a lazy nod of his head. Naruto. Sasuke could only stare ruefully down at the blonde boy, chuckling lightly as his eyes lingered on the projectile. What? Naruto smirked slightly in response. Not my fault, it's true. I'm going to kill you all. Konkuro finally growled, his fingers reaching back for the bandaged package on his back. Konkuro. Enough. A cold monotone rippled through the air from the branch behind Sasuke and Haku, causing both to instantly swirl their gazes around, looking up in shocked surprise at the figure that had apparently snuck up behind them. You're becoming an embarrassment to our village. Gara. Fear instantly flashed across Konkuro's gaze as he looked up at the dead green eyes of the red-headed figure standing upside down on the tree branch, a giant stone gourd on his back. They started it. Becoming. Naruto blinked a moment, looking from Konkuro to the figure on the tree. I'm fairly certain he already hit that level when he decided a couple of civilians were picking a fight with him. Though, the pink paint doesn't help his credibility any, Ino pointed out. I mean, the purple face paint was bad enough. Hey, Konkuro boy snarled angrily as he started to reach again for the pack at his back. So, I'm gonna guess that you two and Pinky are here for the Chunin exams. Naruto hazarded before glancing towards Sakura and Sasuke. Oi, are you two signing up for it by the way? Kakashi-sensei hasn't talked to us about it yet. Sasuke shrugged a bit, considering how things went in Wave though, probably. Asuma-sensei hasn't mentioned it either, so I'm not sure, Sakura admitted as her eyes flitted carefully towards Gaara, studying the impassive boy closely. What about you guys? You think Anko-sensei's giving us a choice? Naruto laughed softly before shrugging a bit. Oi, Gaara was it. You guys hungry? The red-headed boy blinked his dull eyes a moment, canting his head lightly to the side, possibly. Wanna come get some lunch with us then? A trench coat wearing blonde grinned up at the other boy. You're pretty early for the exams, so you might as well learn a good place to get some food, right? Again the boy blinked those dulled eyes, before in a whirl of sand he was suddenly in front of Naruto, his arms crossed about his chest, studying the other boy closely before he spoke. Why? The boy blinked slightly in response, before looking back at the boy in front of him. Why what? Why are you inviting us, me, with you? There was an honest confusion in those almost lifeless orbs. Naruto shrugged slightly, before grinning at Gaara. Why not? You're new in town. Stopped the asshole from forcing us to painfully make him back down, and in the process, saved us from having to drag him down to Anbu headquarters. Suna and Konoha are allies last I checked. You guys are from Suna, right? Konkuro and the Suna blonde both stared in fear and disbelief at the scene in front of them. The blonde boy was actually asking Gaara of all people to have lunch with him and his friends. Nervously the pair looked towards the youngest member of their team and shifted, waiting to see just what the boy would do. Yes, the redhead made a slight inclination of his head. We are from Suna. So, wanna come grab something to eat? Naruto paused a moment, before grinning again as he jerked his thumb back towards Konkuro. Or would you rather just stand there and watch me throw butt plugs at the asshole until he shuts up? Hey, the pink-painted sand nin protested as his blonde teammate snickered softly at his side. Your second offer is rather intriguing, Gaara admitted. Hey, the protest was louder this time as it echoed over the group. I'm curious to see if it works, the redhead continued, his eyes shifting to send a cold glare in Konkuro's direction. Normally, I have to threaten to kill him to shut him up. URK. Painted nin quickly shut his mouth, staring at the slightly shorter boy with wide eyes. Naruto shrugged slightly before looking towards the tree. Hey Sasuke, Haku. You two lovebirds want to come with us. What do you think, Haku? A lazy brow was arched as Sasuke looked at his boyfriend. The amusement of two pinks at the table might be worth it. Hey, Sakura growled softly. Watch it, Spanky. Carefully walking up to Ino, the blonde Suna nin spoke up quietly. Is every nin in this village crazy? Ino blinked a bit before looking at the other blonde girl, shrugging softly and grinning. Only the ones that you have to watch out for. She paused a moment, before leaning in, her voice husky as it whispered lightly just against her skin. Because you never know when we might want to play. Ino-chan. Hinata giggled softly as she playfully swatted her teammate's rear. Stop that. We don't want to scare them off. As the sand girl blushed brightly, her dark eyes widening along with her mouth, Ino just smiled back at Hinata. Nah. She reached up then, trailing a finger along the foreign nin's jaw. I think it's more likely to get them to follow. As Ino threw a wink at the other blonde girl, Hinata linked her arm with the girl and giggled again as she tugged her over towards their third teammate. Come on, you flirt. We don't want to let Naruto-kun get away, do we? Tamari. Gaara spoke up, his eyes flickering towards his blonde teammate. I am going to have lunch with them. Blushing brightly, The blonde girl nodded numbly as she began to walk towards the group. The third member of the team stared in shock, uncertainty written on his face. Looking from Gaara to Tamari to the blonde boy grinning happily, all he could do was twitch slightly. When did the world go insane? Konkuro twitched again, his eyes flickering after the group before down to gleaming rubber object on the ground in front of him. And what kind of up ninja goes around carrying butt plugs to throw at people? Reluctantly he would shift his bundle slightly about his shoulders. Grumbling, he tried unsuccessfully to rub the pink paint off of his face. Quickly finding it a rather futile gesture, he sighed once more then began to follow after the congregating group. Oh, Konohamaru. Hanabi. Naruto spoke up with a grin, why don't you two get back to your game, we'll catch up with you later. All right. The pair nodded carefully before they both quickly took off, this time with Hanabi in the lead being chased by the grinning boy. Unseen in the tree vacated by Sasuke and Haku, a trio of figures watched on from the shadows. That was odd, a female voice spoke up. Hey, what losers, another voice, male this time added, one of them using a butt plug as a weapon, the other getting hit by it. Perhaps, but, a third voice, male as well, spoke up, slightly muffled, something seems off about it. It doesn't matter. The first male dismissed. In the end, we'll fulfill Orochimaru-sama's orders and they'll die. Something doesn't seem right about the blonde and the girls he's with, the female voice insisted. Agreed, the muffled male voice spoke up. But, it matters little, we'll deal with them all the same. Down the streets of Konoha. So, what's Suna like? Naruto asked cheerfully as he stuck his hands in his jacket's pockets, his blue eyes twinkling towards Gaara. Hot, dry, the red-headed boy managed a neutral shrug, desert. Ah, haven't seen the desert yet, he responded easily enough, most of the away missions we've received have been to bandit camps. I see, the boy responded dully, I will admit, all these plants are a bit strange for myself. Yay, I can imagine, the boy nodded, before grinning back, they with pranks a lot though. Pranks? Gaara raised his brow at the blonde boy, such things are discouraged in our village. Huh, never really understood why people think they're such a waste of time. Naruto chuckled softly, I mean, it really is great training, not to mention how it helps keep the rest of the village alert. As Gaara canted his head slightly in consideration, a soft, angry voice could be heard snapping words in their direction, damned demon brat. Instantly both boys' gazes turned, locking onto an irate-looking woman directing her glare towards Naruto. Shaking his head, the boy just shrugged slightly, intent upon ignoring the woman, before he noticed her words had immediately garnered his companion's attention too. There was a pulse in the air, a cold, bloodthirsty darkness that suddenly emanated from the red head, as particles of sand began to slowly float through the air in the woman's direction. He wasn't sure what Gaara was going to do, but the growing look of murder on the boy's face left him certain he needed to act. Reaching out, he quickly put his hand on Gaara's shoulder as he spoke quietly, easy. She was talking about me, not you. Behind him, a pair of gasps were ignored as Naruto looked at Gaara's widening eyes, a brief flicker of disbelief as he looked at the hand actually touching him. The sand froze in its coiling rise, as the boy flicked his gaze from Naruto to the woman. Finally, slowly, carefully it fell again, as Gaara managed a slow nod, before they heard Temari's voice speak up behind them. You touched him. You actually managed to touch him. The blonde girl could only stare in open-mouthed shock. Naruto blinked a moment, looking from his hand on Gaara's shoulder then back to the girl herself, giving her an odd look. So, my sister is referring to the fact that my sand hasn't allowed anyone to touch me. Gaara paused a moment, a wariness glinting in his eyes. Not since my uncle. Okay. The boy blinked a bit as he pulled his hand back. So, should I not touch you then? The last person who was able to touch me ended up trying to kill me. He spoke ever so softly as he watched Naruto, a cold wariness in his eyes. Wait, you just said you're. The words filtered through the boy's mind, before comprehension flashed in those blue orbs. Your uncle tried to. Yes, cold, flat, and dead was the simple response. Naruto paused for a moment, uncertainty in his eyes as he studied the boy in front of him, searching for the words, before carefully speaking, because of something inside of you. For a moment, the boy hesitated, before carefully he nodded, his eyes flickering towards the rest of the group. Catching his gaze, Naruto nodded in turn, before speaking very quietly, yeah. Never fun having something like that inside of you. We can talk later. When there are less people around, ya know. A wary hesitance flashed across his eyes, before carefully the redhead nodded, very well. So, blonde girl's your sister? He remarked casually as he arched a brow. Yes, came the simple response. Huh, the boy blinked a bit, generally sisters aren't that scared of their brothers. And from what I understand, uncles don't usually try to kill their nephews, the redhead responded dully. From what I hear, the boy nodded in a sad bit of agreement. I wouldn't know, my whole family's been dead since I was born from what I hear. From what you hear? Gaara looked back at the boy. Well, everyone that was their friend tells me they're dead, Naruto spoke up softly, and bits and pieces about them. Small little bits. Don't even know their names. I see. Again the voice was neutral as Gaara watched the melancholy smile on the boy's face. So, is the asshole your brother by any chance? Naruto spoke up, casually as he jerked his thumb back towards Kankuro. Yes, Gaara nodded in agreement, despite his penchant for makeup. Hey, an outraged voice spoke up behind them. And the dolls, Gaara continued, as if he'd never heard the voice calling out, he spends most of his time playing with his dolls. They're puppets. Really now? Naruto blinked before looking back at the fuming Kankuro. All those splinters must be painful. I try not to think about it, Gaara agreed with a nod. The mental image is rather disturbing. I don't even want to imagine. Naruto shivered slightly. I do not do that with my puppets. He even sews his own dresses for them. Gaara confided in the blonde boy. It's sad really, he carries around a sewing set wherever he goes. It's called being prepared. Geez, Naruto shook his head in turn, ignoring the angry screams behind them. Please tell me he doesn't try to make them anatomically correct. I've never been brave enough to find out, Gaara responded. After I caught him going through my sister's room, I simply decided I didn't want to know. He did what? This time the screaming voice had a decidedly female cast to it, the fury in it almost palpable. I think he was trying to find her special friend, Gaara continued. He was rifling through her private drawer, and I think he took some of her makeup as well. I was out of my war paint. The male voice spoke up, a bit quieter this time before a loud crash was heard as a giant fan was slammed against the boy's head. Yeesh, Naruto shook his head. It's scary how desperate and messed up some guys can get. Indeed, the response came quietly before he shifted slightly, the dull emerald eyes shifting over his shoulder, glancing towards where Sakura was staring at him before turning his eyes back towards Naruto. Why is the pink-haired one staring at me? The girl, or your girly brother? The blonde asked curiously, because, quite frankly, I don't want to even begin pondering why he would be staring at you. The girl, Gaara responded quickly, a shudder running through his body. I as well would hate to imagine that. Haruno. Naruto paused, looking over his shoulder to a suddenly blushing Sakura who quickly turned her head, looking away. Well, I could be wrong. So I should get a professional opinion on it. Professional? Gaara asked, a touch of curiosity rising in his voice. Yup. The blue-eyed boy grinned back. Hey, Hinata-chan, Ino-chan, why's Sakura staring at Gaara here? Ino grinned wickedly as she looked at her friend, catching her chin with her fingers. Well, let's see. Staring quietly, profuse blushing, slight dilation of the eyes. I think I've seen a case like this before. Sound familiar, Hinata-chan? The pale-eyed girl blushed herself before giggling softly as she nodded. All she needs is to start looking down and pushing her fingers together as she stutters when she tries to talk to him. Ino-chan. That's what I thought. The blonde girl nodded sagely as she grinned back at Naruto. Yes, we've definitely come to a conclusion about what she's suffering from, Naruto-kun. Don't you dare, Ino pig. Sakura practically shrieked out, her eyes blazing as she cracked her knuckles angrily. Ah, Naruto grinned wickedly, so she's suffering from a case of Hinata-chanitis, and crushing on Gaara here. You said it, not me. Ino giggled as her eyes twinkled. I-N-O-O-O-O-O-O-O-O. Sakura whined unhappily. She's rather vocal, isn't she? Gaara spoke up neutrally. Very much so. Naruto agreed. Very passionate, energetic, but sadly, A bit too violent for my particular tastes. Violent. Gaara perked slightly at that admission. The boy nodded in agreement, though, I think it's mainly because she's really, quite frustrated. Violence does help alleviate frustrations, Gaara quickly agreed, a slight smile curling on his lips. Yes, true. Naruto paused a moment, noting the slight bloodlust growing in the boy's eyes, but there are actually some far more enjoyable ways. More enjoyable than violence. Gaara blinked at that, trying to wrap his head about the concept. Yes, much more enjoyable, Naruto agreed with a sage nod, before turning his head back, waggling his brows lecherously towards his teammates. Wouldn't you agree, Hinata-chan, Ino-chan? Both girls blushed for a moment before giving an enthusiastic nod of their heads, much. Are they always like this? Tamari spoke up, as she looked over at Sasuke and Haku. Pretty much. Sasuke shrugged slightly. Naruto's never been a very inhibited guy. From what little I've seen of him, Haku spoke up quietly. Sasuke-kun's quite correct. They're perverts. Sakura spoke up flatly, a blush still covering her cheeks, all three of them. You say that like it's a bad thing, Tamari responded without really thinking, before her words caught up with her and she blushed brightly. Joy, another one, the pink-haired girl grumbled softly before sighing, as if those three weren't bad enough with Spanky and his boy toy here. Am I ever going to live that down? Sasuke grumbled as Haku smiled softly at his side. No, the Uchiha's boyfriend responded, I don't think you will, Spanky. Hush, boy toy, Sasuke responded as he would the effeminate boy lightly. I don't know, going to make me. There was a saucy wink before Haku almost giggled back at his boyfriend, his dark eyes twinkling playfully. Okay, seriously, Kankuro spoke up finally, still making certain to keep a safe distance between himself and his sister as he rubbed his head. What's wrong with this village? We know how to have a good time. Ino spoke up as she waggled her brows back at the others. I mean, seriously, she grinned wickedly at the boy, just because we're makeup-stealing doll fetishists like you. They aren't dolls. Kankuro almost screamed as he crossed his arms about his chest before adding almost in afterthought, and I don't have a fetish. Whatever you say. Ino almost giggled as she looped her arm in Temari's and smirked just a bit. Come on, let's get you away from the bad influences. She paused before leaning in, whispering into the other blonde girl's ear, and get you over to the naughty ones. Tamari blushed furiously, trying to stutter out some kind response, but unable to manage anything intelligible. Before she knew it, she could feel her other arm being captured as Hinata slipped to her other side. Caught between Naruto's two teammates, Tamari could only blush even brighter as she caught the predatory grins on the two younger girls' faces. Now really Ino-chan, Hinata smiled her sweet, feral little smile, you wouldn't be trying to scare the poor girl off, now would you? That would just be. She leaned in, her lips almost brushing against Temari's ear. So disappointing. Oh, no, Hinata-chan. Ino grinned back, her voice slipping down into a throaty pulse of breath as it caressed against Temari's skin. We most certainly wouldn't want to scare her. Your friends seem to have taken an interest in my sister, Gaara observed quietly, before he turned his head back towards Naruto. I don't recall her looking this flustered since Kankuro caught her stealing his magazines. I was getting him back for stealing my makeup. Tamari spoke up in protest. She was apparently most upset to be caught. Gaara nodded simply. She was quite red in the face as she kept shifting her body, rubbing her legs together. It was most curious. I don't recall being caught getting him back ever making her breath so hard before. I just wish she'd quit stealing my copies of the Ninja Hottie's bondage issues. Kankuro spoke up with a grumble. Do you know how hard it is to trick a shopkeeper in Suna with a doer puppet? She does seem quite adamant about keeping those specific issues away from him. Gaara agreed. I think she thinks they'll make him an even greater deviant than he already is. Hey. Naruto looked at Gaara oddly for a long moment, as if debating something as he reached up, cupping his chin casually in his hand. Sounds like she's a good sister, trying to keep her out of control brother from causing too much trouble. Indeed, the red-haired boy agreed, most noble, being willing to take that deviancy as her own instead of allowing our brother to fall into it. Tamari let out a strangled sound as her blush only increased in volume while Ino eyed the girl next to her with a grin. Ooh, really now? Do we need to ask Naruto-kun to break out the ropes and cuffs? Eep. Temari's eyes widened visibly as she shivered between the two girls, goggling at Ino. Well, we don't have to limit it to just ropes and cuffs, Ino-chan, Hinata spoke up evenly. There are all sorts of other toys that we can have all that much more fun with. Oh, so true, Hinata-chan. Ino almost giggled back, her eyes shining as she quickly nodded her head. What do you think, Temari-chan? Eep. The dark-eyed blonde only managed a few stuttering syllables while she blushed furiously, but made no attempt to free herself from the girl's grips. I think your sister's in for an interesting time, Naruto spoke up casually, carefully examining his fingernails. I suppose so, Gaara admitted, the kind of thing you were talking about, the one that's better than violence. Knowing my girls, Naruto responded casually, most likely. I see. The redhead nodded slowly before fixing his flat gaze into Kankuro. Then perhaps I should have a talk with my brother about spreading his deviance. Kankuro's eyes widened as he began to take a step back, a slow whimpering escaping his lips before Naruto began to chuckle softly. You really enjoy messing with their heads, don't you? Gaara blinked a moment before turning his head towards Naruto, leaning his head lightly to the side as he did so. I'm not sure just what you're referring to. Right. The blue-eyed, blonde boy merely chuckled in response, those orbs glittering playfully. Of course you aren't. I have merely been stating my observations at my siblings' behavior, Gaara stoically insisted. In a most humiliatingly deadpan way, Naruto agreed. Merely a side bene. Gaara began before quickly snapping his mouth shut, his eyes widening slightly. I mean, I have no idea to what you refer. Exactly. A chuckle passed his lips before Naruto would casually make a gesture towards the restaurant. Come on, let's go inside before your brother and sister boil themselves. Agreed, it could have been a simple trick of the light, but Naruto could have sworn he saw a slight blush appear on Gaara's face as he responded in his usual stoic manner. As the Sand Trio set the packs there carried on their backs against the booth, the Konoha ninja adjusted themselves, leaving Gaara to sit with Naruto on one side, and a blushing Sakura on the other. Temari was quickly captured as Hinata pulled her into the booth while she took her seat next to Naruto, with Ino sealing her in place on the other side. Next to the Yamanaka blonde, Haku and Sasuke took their place, leaving Kankuro to bring up the end with an annoyed grumble. How come I'm the only one of us that doesn't get to sit next to a cute girl? Pink splattered Suna Nin grumbled. Because you're the only one here who has a doll and makeup fetish, Gaara responded easily, and I wouldn't want to expose these lovely girls to any more of your deviancy than they already have been. He paused a moment before gesturing towards Temari. Look at what it did to our sister after all. I don't see her complaining about it, Gaara's older brother grumbled pointedly. Hey, I don't think my girls are complaining. Naruto smirked a bit as he turned his head slightly to where Ino was grinning lecherously as she whispered into Temari's ear, while Hinata watched with a look of amusement on her lips, but that's not necessarily a good sign. You wouldn't be saying bad things about us, now would you, Naruto-kun? Hinata asked with a sweet little smile on her face as her hand disappeared underneath the table. Oh no, Naruto agreed, never that. Just noting that it's almost a given that the two of you are going to make it worse for her. And I'm sure, Ino murmured throatily, Temari-chan's going to enjoy every bit of it. Now remember, you two, Naruto chided lightly, Suna's an ally, you don't get to keep her. Ah, both of the Team 10 girls grumbled softly as they gave a mock glare in Naruto's direction. I swear, they're like little kids sometimes, Naruto chuckled softly as he rolled his eyes and leaned back. Better watch out, they might try to keep her anyway. Perhaps a trade then? Gaara asked idly, turning his head for a moment, looking at the pink-haired girl at his side. My violent sister, for the cute, violent Kunyachi here. Well, I'd say go for it, Naruto spoke up before chuckling a bit, but for some reason, I don't think the Hokage would be as quick to jump on it. Sakura blushed brightly as she struggled to come up with something to say. Wah. Huh, hey. But then again, the blonde boy continued, she might need some proper training. He paused, before smiling innocently, but, from what I hear, the fiery ones tend to make for great rides if tamed properly. Naruto. Sakura almost screamed as she lunged across Gaara's lap, her intent so completely focused on the blonde boy, she completely dismissed the redhead from her mind. Careful, Sakura, he grinned, leaning back as he caught her wrists, twisting her body around as she gave off a soft eep of surprise before she found herself laying across Gaara's lap staring up at the boy. You never know what kind of predicament you could find yourself in. She blushed brightly as she looked up at the now blinking Gaara. Hi. Hello. The boy responded carefully, shifting slightly as he could feel her warm body against his own, struggling against a blush that threatened to rise up against his cheeks. Comfortable. Eep. The girl blushed furiously as she stared back at the boy, her emerald eyes thrown wide as she froze in place. That is. Yes, I think she finds it quite comfortable, Naruto interjected with a grin, his eyes twinkling wickedly, but, since we were planning on eating, maybe she should be sitting in your lap, instead of laying across it. Sound good, Sakura? Sakura continued to blush brightly before she slowly nodded, gently shifting around as she wrapped her arms tentatively against the crook of Gaara's neck before pulling herself up. Her face pressed against his skin, letting him feel the soft touch of her warm breath before she shifted around, looking up into his eyes for a quiet moment before blushing as she looked down, fidgeting lightly in his lap. There we go, now that everyone's. Naruto paused a moment, before blinking idly as he looked to his side, making note of the giggling and moaning. Well, I was going to say let's start ordering now that everyone's settled, but I can see that some of us are a bit too busy. As he coughed pointedly at that, causing Ino and Hinata to blush brightly as they broke away from the rather flustered Temari, as they chimed in unison, sorry, Naruto-kun. I swear. He rolled his eyes a bit and smirked softly at the girls. There's a time and a place for that, you two. Toying with a girl right in public, when other people are planning to eat, is one thing. It's quite another when you're doing it in front of the girl's brothers. He scowled at the two. You're going to turn Konkoro into an even worse deviant than he already is. As the two girls blushed brightly on either side of Temari, Gaara hesitantly brought his arm around Sakura's waist, much as he saw the girls doing to his sister, and Sasuke to Haku as he added, indeed, I would rather you not make things any more difficult with having to live with him than necessary. Hasn't that gotten old for you two yet? Konkoro grumbled softly as he glared from his brother to Naruto. No, the pair responded in a frightening unison as Naruto grinned brightly. How about we start ordering our food, then we can continue with the abuse of our new friend here. Sasuke spoke up, arching a brow casually as he lightly stroked his boyfriend's stomach. Sounds good to me. Naruto grinned broadly before stretching out. I'm starving. You're always starving, Naruto-kun, Hinata spoke up with a soft giggle. Not my fault I burned through so much energy. He grinned back. Actually, from what I recall, a lot of it is because of you two. As the rest of the table laughed and smiled at them, Ino and Hinata had the decency to blush. Smiling, the group settled in, placing their orders before indulging in a good bit of small talk. Hours later, the group finally finished, breaking up as various members split off and went their separate ways. The Hokage Monument. Naruto cast a glance over towards Gaara as he sat at the edge of the cliff. They'd been there only a few moments, a silence between them as the cool night air began to wrap about their bodies. The girls had gone off on their own, or more accurately, Ino and Hinata had dragged Temari and Sakura off somewhere, to do something. He wasn't quite sure what. Sasuke and Haku had given a polite goodbye, and vanished shortly after, leaving a suddenly rather nervous Konkoro to bid a hasty retreat from the pair. So, they'd left themselves, Gaara silently following the blonde through the village streets, until they'd reached the path to the cliff. When they'd scaled it, still not speaking, Naruto had taken a comfortable seat on the ground, staring out over the village with a somber gaze. He simply waited, sensing the ill ease that Gaara felt, letting the boy choose when to speak. Why are you so different from me? Gaara spoke softly. How can you be like me? Who've you got inside of you? Naruto spoke up as he lay back, looking up at the boy with quiet blue eyes. Shukaku, the one-tailed, the boy responded softly, I can hear my mother's voice, calling out for blood, to kill, to justify my existence with their blood. She comes to me in my sleep, eating at me, devouring me. That's probably not your mother, you know. The blue eyes were watching him, quiet, and waiting. I know, Gaara admitted quietly as he slowly slumped down, pulling his knees back up against his chest. It's just so easy to listen to it. If I kill, if I spill the blood, feel it blood. I'm not alone. How long have you known about it? Naruto asked quietly, his words quiet, neutral. Since when my uncle tried to kill me, the boy answered quietly. Quote. I found out about mine the night I became a genin. Naruto's voice was quiet as he looked up at the stars. I'd always wondered why they hated me, why they insulted me, or gave me those cold stares. Then one of my teachers told me, just before he tried to kill me. Did you kill him? The question was so simple, so soft as it echoed past the young man's lips. No. Naruto shook his head quietly. Another teacher, and a woman who became one of my Junin instructors showed up, to protect me. They didn't care about what was inside me. They saw me, not the fox. Gaara nodded slowly, quietly as he processed the information the boy had told him, before the last bit slipped through his mind as he stared at the boy before him, the Nine Tails. Yeah, the boy nodded quietly. The fourth Hokage sealed it inside me when it attacked the village. Apparently, according to Old Man Hokage, I was supposed to be seen as a hero, the living sacrifice that holds the beast at bay. The fourth cage, Gaara spoke up, his words growing thick with a tremor of emotion as he continued, sealed mine in me. Using my mother's life. To have a weapon. He paused a moment, before he stared up at the sky overhead, and that's what he made me. That what you wanna be? It's defined my existence as long as I can remember. There was a tinge of whispered regret in the redhead's words as he spoke. To fight, to destroy, to keep my existence from being erased. I protect what I care about. Naruto spoke up softly, the people I care about. That and to have my teacher's style be recognized as being something worth practicing, instead of just being a joke like everyone thinks it is. You did throw a butt plug at my brother, Gaara observed neutrally. I'm a bondage ninja. Naruto responded with a shrug against the ground. It comes with the style. I suppose so, the boy answered neutrally. Ever thought about choosing a different path? Naruto asked after a moment's silence. Quote. What do you mean? There was a moment of genuine surprise in Gaara's words as he blinked at the boy in front of him. Well, sounds like you're living as what your father told you to be. Have you ever thought about choosing to be something else? Choosing to be what you want to be? Quote. I don't know. Gaara responded quietly, looking away as he wrapped his arms about his knees. I don't know what I'd choose to be. Ya know, you could probably kill me. Naruto spoke up quietly, his eyes closed as he spoke. That caused Gaara to blink suddenly, almost boggling at the calm manner in which the boy spoke. What? You use the One Tail's power, right? The blonde boy spoke up softly. Defends you, lets you attack, makes you very, very dangerous. Yes, he admitted quietly. I've never drawn on the Nine Tails. Naruto continued softly. I don't have any special abilities like that. He paused a moment before admitting, well, other than healing fast, a lot of stamina, and more chakra than I know what to do with. And you want me to kill you? The Suna demon container blinked again, uncertain. Oh no, the leaf ninja chuckled softly as he shook his head. I'm just saying you could. My style, the kind of ninja I choose to be. I probably wouldn't have any chance against you. He paused a moment, before looking up directly into Gaara's eyes, but, you know what? What? There was confusion, written all across the boy's face, not sure just where he was going with all this. If you threatened what I cared about, I'd do everything in my power to stop you, even if it meant my end. The words were soft as they left Naruto's lips, as they echoed up against Gaara's ears, causing the boy to stiffen suddenly at the proclamation. Why? The words were stiff, wary as he almost glared down at the boy, trying furiously to hide the uncertain fear that rippled through him. Why would you throw your life away like that then? Because that's how I choose to prove my existence, Naruto responded quietly, looking up at the stars now, not because someone told me that's what I had to be. Not because it's what people tell me is the right thing to do. Because I made the choice to. He took a moment, pausing before he gestured out towards the village below them. They call me a monster, a demon. But I choose to protect, not destroy. I will be who I choose to be. There are ninjas that would call you weak for that. Gaara spoke, his voice neutral as he looked down at the boy in front of him. Tell that to the fourth Hokage. Naruto responded quietly. He chose to protect what he loved, what he cared about. He put everything he had into it. He gave everything he had for it. And because of that, he almost single-handedly ended the war Konoha and Iwa. Because of that, he defeated what's considered an unstoppable creature of destruction. Does that sound like someone who was weak to you? For a long moment, Gaara said nothing, looking out over the village below them with a solemn steady gaze, before quietly he spoke. No, it doesn't. Then find out who you are. Naruto responded. Choose who and what you are. But make sure it's your choice. As the wind swept past them, Gaara nodded once more, saying nothing as he lost himself in though in consideration. What choice was he going to make? What did he choose to be? All right, you brats, don't you dare disappoint us. Anko grinned wickedly down her students. I'm expecting a good showing from you three. Not to mention, Kurenai spoke up, glancing at the trio as she smirked slightly. We've got money riding on the three of you at least making it through the first 2 stages. Any hints on what they're gonna do? Ino asked curiously, her eyes glittering mischievously. Frayed not kiddies. Anko grinned wickedly. Don't let it mess with your heads though, you'll do just fine. Right. Naruto paused, and then rummaged inside of his coat. Rubber chicken, check. As the 2 girls stared at the boy in confusion, Anko burst into laughter. Way to go, brat, figured you'd get it. Naruto-kun. Hinata blinked at the bemused expression on the blonde boy's face, then stared openly where her instructor cackled. First exam has something to do with Ibiki. He grinned back, his eyes glittering with a wicked delight. Knowing him, some kind of psychological warfare on us. Morino Ibiki. Ino blinked, paling slightly. Man, Dad's told me some horror stories about him. Oh, don't worry, Ino-chan. Naruto was grinning now, his eyes alight with wicked delight. Just leave Ibiki to me. As the 2 girls and 2 women watched the boy rubbing his hands together, they couldn't help but take an unconscious step backwards. They knew that look well enough. Sharing a glance, all 4 couldn't suppress the shiver that ran down their spines. Poor Ibiki. Anko noted, a slight giggle to her tone. Kurenai paused, lightly tapping her lips in though. What are you thinking, Kurenai-sensei? Hinata spoke up, eyeing the woman carefully. Oh, just wondering who we could sucker into making a bet about whether or not Naruto would crack Ibiki during the exam, she responded, a slightly amused little smile on her lips. Unfortunately, I think our dear Naruto's performance reviews have greatly vaulted people's estimations of his abilities. Who? Me. Naruto offered up an almost angelic smile at the females in his life and casually crossed his hands behind his back. Would I do something so diabolical? Yes. Hinata responded immediately. Ino agreed. Definitely. Kurenai nodded. In a heartbeat, Anko finished with a wicked grin plastered across her lips. Ah. The boy paused, before sniffling softly. Damn, what am I gonna do now that I'm found out? Keep it up and let us enjoy the laughs. Anko offered helpfully. Whip the Anbu into shape. Kurenai countered with a smirk. Snuggle and cuddle your little puppy. Hinata piped up hopefully. Do wicked and unmentionable things to your little kitten that leave her with a smile on her face that won't go away for weeks. Ino finished, smiling sweetly as the other females blinked at her. Damn, Hinata immediately snapped her fingers. Is it too late for me to change my answer? I like Ino-chan's idea better. Naruto gave a great, exaggerated sigh as he brought his hand up to his face. Oh, the things I have to put up with. Being surrounded by the most beautiful ladies in Konoha, and having 2 of them wanting to do wicked and unmentionable things with me. To us, Ino corrected him with a grin. 2 of the most beautiful ladies in Konoha wanting you to do wicked and unmentionable things to us. What Ino-chan said, Hinata nodded eagerly, a slightly lecherous grin blossoming hungrily across her face. You know, Kurenai spoke up, shifting her attention between her students and her partner. I'm not sure if I should blame them for being a bad influence on us. Are you being a bad influence on all of us, Anko-chan? Hey. The woman in question immediately spoke up in protest. That's all, Naruto. The solitary male in question shrugged a bit. I'm pretty sure a good bit of it is from Hinata-chan and Ino-chan as well, Anko-chan. Hey. That's right. Anko immediately smiled triumphantly. I mean, come on. They're both worse than I was at their age. At their age, Kurenai spoke up. You were apprenticed to you know who. Anko paused, stroking her chin a moment. I guess that means I was even more up in the head then. No, Kurenai responded as she leaned over, pulling her partner into a loose hug. arms wrapped snug about her waist. It means you got put through something outside of your control. You held together quite well after what you've been through. I guess, the other woman murmured softly, her eyes flickering towards the ground for a moment. Anyway, come on, let's go with the brats and meet this Suna team they've been so interested in. Hey. Naruto shifted nervously for a moment, before giving his instructors a meaningful look, just so you two know. Garas, like me, he paused, stressing the last part meaningfully, only, he didn't get the chances I did. Both instructors immediately stiffened as their eyes latched onto Naruto, a question boring into him as he carefully nodded his head back to them. A nervousness shifted between the two, before they glanced into one another's eyes, then gave one more, meaningful glance to Naruto. When he nodded again, they immediately relaxed. Oh, I don't know, Ino spoke up, he's nowhere near as cute as you, but, Sakura seems to like him. The girl paused a moment, before grinning lecherously, now his sister though. Roar, kitty-like. I'm starting to wonder if there's much Kitty doesn't like, Hinata countered playfully, her pale eyes twinkling brightly. Gaara and Tamari-chan's brother, the asshole. Ino put forth thoughtfully, her finger tapping her lip. Ah. Hinata nodded sagely, I'd forgotten about him. It took hours of work too. And now you just had to go and remind me. He is the kind of person one struggles to forget, isn't he? Ino agreed, a wicked grin on her face. Serves you right. She paused a moment before thinking, though, I'm starting to wonder if Kiba might be slightly worse. Oh, why? Hinata asked curiously as the group walked down the street, Naruto and the teachers listening to the two's conversation with looks of amusement on their faces. Well, Ino paused a moment, shifting nervously as she continued to walk on. This is just something I heard, but. Well, it depends. Hinata suddenly cut her off. Who'd you hear it from? Shino. The blue-eyed girl responded immediately, and Hana. Hana. The Hyuga girl blinked in confusion. Kiba's sister. Kurenai supplied. She's a Chunin. Ah. Hinata nodded sagely. She a reliable source. She's a good kid. Generally speaking. Anko shrugged a bit, grinning slightly. She'd know the embarrassing details about her little brother though. It's what big sisters are for. Huh. I thought that was just instructors. Naruto spoke up casually, his eyes dancing with mischief, or was that annoying blonde brats that have the dirt on said instructors? I can never remember. Unfortunately, Anko growled, it's the annoying blonde brats one. Oh, ah well. He grinned up at her magnanimously, I get those confused so easily, being blonde and all. So, what was it you were saying about Kiba, Ino? Hinata spoke up, breaking up the impending skirmish of the ongoing, friendly, war between Anko and Naruto. Well, the blonde girl slowly drew out her response as she carefully looked around. You know how the Inuzuka have really good noses. So we've noticed, Anko drawled, one of the reasons they're the Leafs' top trackers. Well, apparently he doesn't use it just for tracking, Ino whispered conspiratorially. What do you mean? Hinata spoke up fearfully, her eyes, hoping that she wasn't right about what she thought. Ever noticed you were missing panties? Ino spoke up, nervously as she shifted slightly, especially at school. Quote. Please tell me you're joking, Ino-chan, Hinata spoke up, her eyes trembling. That would explain the looks that Hana gives her brother on occasion, Kurenai muttered slightly under her breath. Apparently, he really has a thing for you, Ino continued, before shuddering slightly, and because of that. Now has a thing for me. Naruto was caught in indecision. On one hand, a part of him was completely outraged at Kiba's rumored perversions involving his girls. On the other, if it hadn't been for that, he'd be laughing his off in the street. I don't know how to react to this, Naruto finally admitted, it's just. I can't decide if I want to kill him, or just point and laugh at him. Both his teammates stared back at him, anger beginning to flare in their eyes as he shrugged a bit before grinning at them. Of course, doesn't mean he isn't going to pay for it, of course. I was starting to worry there for a moment, Anko chuckled softly, at least that you'd live to say that. Yeah. Naruto waved his hand dismissively before he would yawn a bit, smiling at the girls, forgive me. I don't know, what do you think, Ino-chan? Hinata spoke up speculatively. I'm not sure, Hinata-chan, the blonde responded, I think maybe he might have more in common with Kiba than we thought. I suppose he might just. Hinata agreed, a sad note in her voice. Please, if I wanted your panties, why would I need to steal them? Naruto asked with a casual waggle of his eyebrows. I mean, seriously, I just have to hold up my hand and you'll give them over. Well, Ino responded, pondering aloud, he does have a point. True, Hinata agreed, that doesn't mean he doesn't have to make it up to us though. We're at the hotel, Naruto observed, so I'm gonna just end this here. Forgive me, are no massages for a month. Ah, the two girls chorused as one, that's not fair. I'm the one in charge here, Naruto grinned back, I don't have to play fair. Ah, how quickly the young learn, Anko sniffed softly as she leaned against Kurenai, it seems only yesterday, I was using that line on our helpless little genin. Helpless. Naruto and Kurenai spoke up in an amused unison. Well, maybe not helpless, the brown-eyed woman conceded, but you get the point. Naruto paused a moment, before smirking a bit, maybe we should give Kiba some of your panties then. Like, all of them. You wouldn't dare. Anko almost shrieked in outrage. Anko-sensei. Hinata spoke up. This is Naruto you're talking to. Really? Anko-chan, how could you be so careless? Kurenai chided her partner mildly, though, I do look forward to the easy access. A slightly lecherous leer made its way onto the woman's normally aloof features. I'll let it slide this time. Naruto shrugged slightly before smirking just a bit as he paused a moment, looking at the hotel. You two ready? With a smirk on their faces, the two instructors nodded, and with a quick jutsu, their regular outfits were replaced with their Kakashi imitations. Glancing to one another, they both extended a hand to the boy simultaneously. With a slight roll of his eyes, Naruto gave a soft chuckle as he deposited a small book in each of those hands. The things I'll do for a laugh, Naruto grumbled as he felt a sudden chill running down his spine. Are those the new releases? Hinata spoke up, with a sudden reverence in her voice. And, why don't we have a copy? Ino added, her eyes gleaming hungrily as she stared at Naruto. Naruto blinked at them before shrugging slightly, because we don't need the two of you giggling and drooling in the middle of the Chunin exams. I suppose I'll buy that, Ino admitted grudgingly, for now. But, Hinata spoke up, her eyes trembling slightly, new release. After the exam, Hinata-chan, after the exam, Naruto said soothingly, even as the perverted giggles began to bubble up from their instructors. But, Hinata gave a pathetic little whimper, her wide pale eyes staring up pleadingly into Naruto's own blue orbs. Not gonna work, Naruto said firmly before he turned his attention towards behind the girl, hey Gaara. Hello, Naruto, the red-headed boy gave a slight bow to the spiky-haired blonde, Hinata. Ino. Hey Gaara. Ino responded with a smile before grinning lasciviously as she caught sight of the boy's sister. Hello, Temari-chan. The dark-eyed blonde immediately bushed next to Gaara, shifting slightly as she glanced away slightly. Hello Ino. Hinata. Now, what did we tell you, Temari-chan? Hinata spoke up, coming out of her semi-funk as she slipped over, wrapping her arm through the girl's arm on one side, while Ino did the same on the other. Nervously, Temari threw a glance behind her, towards the stone-faced man towering behind her and her brothers, his face half covered by a cloth. As the man thinned his lips and tightened his eyes, almost growling his displeasure at the girl, suddenly felt an icy chill running down his back. Slowly, he turned his head away from the girl, to find two pair of cold eyes, latching onto him with a frighteningly similar glare. One pair a familiar dull green, the other however, a brilliant blue, that some seemed to fill with the same cold warning as the first. Watching as her Junin instructor began to sweat nervously, Temari slowly relaxed as she felt the girls pressing to either side of her. Ino-chan, Hinata-chan. Ya know, if she wasn't my sister, this would be so hot, Konkuro grumbled as he watched the three girls. Shut up, doll boy, four voices snapped out simultaneously. No respect. I get no respect I tell ya. The boy muttered under his breath as he kicked against the ground and shoved his hands into his pockets. I wonder why. Gaara deadpanned quietly, surely it wouldn't have anything to do with your doll fetish. Ya know, I'm half afraid he might have a. Naruto paused a moment, swallowing carefully as he looked at Gaara, Temari doll hidden somewhere. What? Konkuro immediately began to sweat, his eyes wild as they darted between Tamari and Gaara. Where did you? I mean, of course I don't. I told you. That's just wrong. Tamari stared at her brother, her lips pursing a moment. Ya know. I wonder if Konkoro got more than just his looks from our father. Blinking a moment, Gaara turned his back to the man standing behind them. Is there something we should be aware of about our father, Baki? Other than his trying to kill me, of course. The tall man shifted nervously as he looked down at the penetrating gaze of the red-haired demon container and shifted slightly. That's not the sort of thing I'd ever want to find out. He paused a moment, before casting his eye towards Konkoro for a moment. Konkoro is worrisome enough as it is. I would prefer to not know it's something from our cage. No respect at all, Konkoro muttered beneath his breath, kicking his foot at the ground sullenly. So, I take it this is your Junin instructor? Naruto offered casually as he looked up at the stony-faced man. Yes, this is Baki, Gaara nodded simply, one of our father's lackeys. Baki himself twitched slightly at being described as such, though made no attempt at responding as he shifted his gaze up slightly, then blinked as he noticed the two women slouching behind the three-leaf genin. Both of them held up a book in their hands, reading lazily from one eye, their other covered by a slanted headband. Exempting the face masks pulled up to their noses, the pair were dressed like any other leaf Junin. Ah, well, everyone has to make ends meet some way, Naruto responded with a slight shrug, though, I don't imagine lackey is a very rewarding one. It's not. Baki grumbled slightly before he realized what he'd said. I mean, I'm not a lackey. If you say so. Naruto shrugged a bit, smiling innocently at the man as he then gestured back towards his own instructors. Those are Kurenai and Anko, our instructors. Yo. Both raised their free hands, waving in unison without looking up from their books, before suddenly breaking into a simultaneous, perverted giggle. Don't mind them, they just got the new releases of the Sweet Silky Nights series. Naruto grinned a bit, ignoring the sudden, burning glare Hinata gave him. It's out, already. Tamari, Konkoro, and surprisingly Baki all asked at once, before all eyes turned towards the stony-faced man. What? A slight blush broke across the man's face. They're very well written. You got that right, Tamari muttered appreciatively. Technically they've got pre-releases, Naruto admitted with a slight grin, but, it is always. He paused a moment, glancing over at Konkoro. Well, almost always, nice to meet people who appreciate my books. Wait. Baki froze his eye immediately latching onto the blonde boy. You're telling me you're the author? What? How else do you think I ended up with the two prettiest genin in Konoha? Naruto smirked a bit, his eyes waggling, not to mention, the being lucky enough to be instructed by the two hottest kunoichi. It's a good series but I prefer ik. Konkoro started before suddenly finding himself caught in a full-body tackle by Ino as Hinata moved swiftly, disabling the boy's vocal cords and jaw. Do not mention that series in front of Naruto-kun. Ino hissed, are you trying to get killed? Figures, Naruto grumbled as he eyed Konkoro balefully, you actually show something redeeming about yourself, then you go and pull that. Baki considered for a moment. Inside, he was caught between his loyalty to his village, to his cage, and his inner fanboy. A shinobi's life was dedicated to duty and his missions, but this was the author of his absolute favorite series. And if the invasion succeeded? The man immediately paled, his eyes widening in realization. If the invasion was successful, and Konoha was wiped out, it would mean the end of Sweet Silky Nights. He couldn't let that happen, cage be damned. Just when I think this village can't get any crazier. Konkoro muttered under his breath, I can't wait until we get back to Suna, right guys? The rest of the Sand Nin merely gave the puppeteer a look. From Gaara, it was to be expected, he'd made the look almost into a technique on its own. From Tamari, well it wasn't too terribly surprising, considering who her new friends were. But, from Baki, that was a shocker. I do apologize for my students' foolishness, Naruto-sama. Baki spoke up respectfully as he gave them a bow. I'm afraid. He's simply not quite right in the head. We've tried to get him some help, but he's the cage's favorite. As such, he overlooks some of the boy's more glaring flaws. No respect at all, Konkoro muttered again, sulking as he crossed his arms about his chest. I'd offer you the boy's sister to make up for it, but The man gestured helplessly towards where Naruto's teammates has resumed their hushed talk with the dark-eyed blonde. It would seem she's already been caught. It happens, Naruto chuckled in response. Those two, well, they like to play. My sister does not seem that adverse to their idea of play, I've noticed. Gaara spoke up carefully, eyeing the trio of girls. Would you be adverse to Sakura doing that with you? Naruto countered, a slight smirk on his lips. No, I can't say that I would, Gaara responded simply, nodding his head carefully before turning his attention back towards the girls, though, my sister is certainly far more enthusiastic. Not too surprising, Naruto shrugged a bit, grinning back at Gaara, she's more expressive than you are. True, the red-headed boy responded evenly, I have noticed most are. All right you brats, Anko spoke up, a chuckle in her voice even though she never turned her eye away from her book. Enough socializing, the Chunin exams await. Yeah, Naruto grinned back at his teacher, whatever you say, Anko-chan. A smirk on his lips, the boy would lead the strange procession down the streets of Konoha, his blue eyes dancing merrily as he plotted just what he might do during the exam. The academy. Hey, don't those two look like the Chunin that are usually on duty at the gates? Ino spoke up as they wandered down the steps, on their way to room 301. Yeah, probably, Naruto shrugged a bit, early eliminations or some such I'd guess. If they can't see through such a ruse, then they're obviously not properly prepared, Gaara agreed with a nod, even Kankuro can see through such a ploy. No respect, the puppeteer grumbled again and sighed as he glared at Naruto, this is all your fault. It's my fault you're a makeup-wearing, smut-loving asshole who plays with dolls. Naruto asked with an arched brow. No, it's your fault that now everyone knows it, he grumbled back. Look at it this way, the blonde boy spoke up cheerfully, the first step to recovery is being humiliated into changing by a complete and utter stranger who befriends your brother and whose teammates seduce your sister. I thought it was admitting you have a problem. Bah, that's the ones that don't have someone to drag them kicking and screaming into being a better person. Naruto responded casually, don't you feel privileged? Have I mentioned how much I utterly loathe you today? The Sand Nin growled. Not yet, but, I'm sure you'll get around to it soon enough. Naruto grinned back at the boy, before speaking to the rest of the group. Come on, let's get up to the third floor. I have noticed. Gaara spoke up as they walked, his arms crossed about his chest as was his custom. You seem quite eager for this exam. Why wouldn't I be? Naruto shot back, grinning softly. It's the Chunin exam. Kankuro spoke up. Ah, yes, but you see. Naruto was rubbing his hands together, his eyes dancing wickedly. I know who's in charge of the first part. And, ooh, will I be having fun. As the blonde boy began to let loose a dark chuckle that to the Suna trio, was frighteningly familiar. Well, frightening to the elder two siblings. Gaara simply nodded to himself, taking it as another obvious similarity between the two of them. Man, I thought the rumors about you were just that. Kankuro stared at the blonde, a gleam of fearful respect beginning to shine in his eyes. Ooh, rumors. Naruto smiled innocently, the light in his eyes a feral playfulness. What rumors? Various warnings about the blonde madman and his. Kankuro paused a moment, coughing into his hand. Girls. I'll be taking a fully detailed list of any and all persons that reference to my girls as anything less than flattering. Naruto spoke up, his voice suddenly flat as his eyes did a fair imitation of Gaara's own. And you will be giving them to him, brother, Gaara added, his voice a chilling match to the other demon container. Ah, Ino spoke up, her eyes twinkling mischievously, isn't it nice when he gets all protective? Makes me feel all tingly inside. Very tingly, Hinata agreed with a wicked grin on his face, makes me want to start spreading them around. Focus girls, Naruto chuckled softly, his eyes twinkling, as they stepped into the waiting room. It's game time, remember. Around the room, various genin teams turned their attentions for a moment to the new arrivals. Cold hard glares were sent out, meant to cow and intimidate. The result was less than what they expected. Bwahahaha. Naruto practically burst out laughing, leaning unconsciously against Gaara as he raised his hand and pointed to the room. Aren't they so cute? Trying to look all intimidating and stuff. Indeed, the redhead nodded back to his fellow demon container. Most impressive. Are you two trying to get us killed? Kankuro hissed out, his eyes widening in a show of panic. What? They're just a bunch of genin. Naruto shrugged slightly. I mean, hell, Gaara could probably take them all out on his own in a few seconds. If I was desiring to be messy, Gaara agreed with a nod. Though, the rumors about you suggest that they'd wish I'd been the one to deal with them. Oh, stop. You're making me blush. Naruto laughed back, ignoring the growing irritation on the faces of the assembled genin. Meh, a new voice spoke up. Do you have to be so troublesome, Naruto? Yes, Shika. I do. Naruto grinned back at the lazy boy striding up with his teammates. Damn troublesome, the boy sighed, slouching over with a grunt. What can I say? It's a gift. Naruto smirked back, his eyes twinkling wickedly. Hey Gaara. A slightly blushing Sakura spoke up as she lightly broke away from her teammates and settled up against green-eyed boy. Sakura. Gaara's own cheeks flushed slightly as he nodded to her, his lips twisting up slightly in a slight smile. Tisk. And apparently you spread your troublesomeness, Shikamaru grumbled again, eyeing the blonde boy then his female teammate. What can I say? I'm infectious. Naruto grinned back. Just think, you're almost at the proper saturation point. Soon you and Choji will start acting troublesome just like us. Working hard, playing hard, settling up with cute girls. Tisk. Waaaay too troublesome, Shikamaru grunted slightly. Everyone's getting girls. Tamari, even Gaara. Why can't I get a girl? Kankuro grumbled slightly and shook his head. You should be thankful, Shikamaru countered as he lazily looked at the puppeteer, they're too damn troublesome. But, you can do things with them. Kankuro countered, things that don't involve your own hands, lotion, tissues, magazines and toys. He's got a. Wait. Choji started to respond, before looking at Kankuro oddly, toys. He's a pervert, Gaara said simply as he hesitantly wrapped an arm about Sakura's waist. You don't want to know. Sakura nodded as she found herself resting her head against Gaara's shoulder, but then again, Naruto's whole team are perverts. They're just not as bad. Guilty as charged, Naruto admitted with a smirk as he lightly cast his eyes over to where his girls were giggling and teasing Tamari in soft, whispered little voices that had the dark-eyed blonde getting redder and redder with each passing moment. I think that my sister certainly isn't complaining about it, Gaara commented, as he slowly managed to relax against the contact of Sakura's body against his own. Yeah, but if they keep this up, I might be the one complaining. Naruto grumbling a bit as he gave a mock accusatory glare at Gaara. Your sister's stealing my girls from me. Hardly my fault if they have superior taste in blondes, Gaara countered in a straight, flat tone. Are you guys trying to get killed? A new voice spoke up, as a somewhat angry-looking Leaf Nin, wearing silver hair and glasses strode up to them. It's bad enough all you rookies are involved this year. Are you going out of your way to try and piss the rest of us off? Naruto paused a moment, before glancing at Gaara. I was. How about you, Gaara? The thought had occurred to me, the neutral voice responded. I haven't had a chance to relieve any stress lately. Killing some of the competition would be enjoyable. Tisk tisk. Naruto chided lightly. Remember, we talked about this, Gaara. No slaughtering the sheep, at least not until we're at a stage where it's perfectly reasonable to do so. They can hardly blame me for defending myself if someone else attacks me first, Gaara countered as Sakura could help but shake her head, giving him a slight elbow in the side. But then they might throw you out of the exam, the pink-haired girl countered, and that would mean all the less time we'd get to spend with one another. The silver-haired Leaf Nin stared at the group incredulously as the three girls giggled and moaned softly to the side. Off to the side, Kankuro and Shikamaru were grumbling together about troublesome genin and a lack of respect, while Choji munched on his chips, listening avidly. Naruto smirked back at Sakura, before nodding at Gaara. You know, she does have a point, Naruto agreed. Yes, I find myself. Gaara paused a moment, considering, reluctant to take such a risk now. Still fun to get them pissed though, Naruto grinned back. Indeed, Gaara nodded back. Boys, Sakura sighed with a roll of her eyes. Are you all insane? The unnamed ninja asked, his eyes widening behind his glasses. It's been mentioned to me before, Gaara admitted with a shrug. Been told that many a time, Naruto seconded. I hang out with these two, Sakura admitted. What do you think? Doesn't help that you like his lap either, Naruto snarked. True, Sakura blushed brightly as she glanced at Gaara. He does have a very nice lap. Thank you. Gaara responded quietly, offering a slight smile to the girl. A dawning realization suddenly crossed the silver-haired boy's face. You guys aren't even from the same villages. You're a sand nin. And Sakura and I aren't even on the same team, Naruto countered. Who are you anyway? Ah, Kabuto, the older boy responded, blinking again at the group. This is, ninja from different villages aren't supposed to be so friendly. We're allies, remember? Naruto shrugged, almost missing the slight flicker in both Kabuto and Gaara's eyes. No big. Ah, still, you shouldn't be drawing all this attention to yourselves, it's not good, Kabuto countered. Huh. Naruto looked at Kabuto oddly. Are you really that ignorant? What? Kabuto blinked, his eyes suddenly narrowing before he growled at the boy. What did you just call me? I didn't call you anything. Naruto countered. I asked you a question, on if you were really that ignorant that you have no clue who I am. A really loud-mouthed brat. Kabuto offered up. Please. The blonde boy scoffed before flaring his coat dramatically as he posed. I am Naruto Uzumaki. I am the loud-mouthed brat in Konoha. I've been pissing off Junin and Anbu since I was a little kid, why would I be worried about pissing off a bunch of genin? Your delivery needs work. Naruto, Sakura critiqued lazily. What do you think, Gaara-kun? Indeed, the sand nin agreed, less than impressive compared to your usual flair. Hey, Naruto grumbled slightly, you think I'm use the good stuff for someone like him. Okay, Kabuto spoke up. I'm just going to go over that way, talk to some genin that have the brains to listen. As he watched Kabuto walking away, Naruto frowned slightly. There's something not right about that guy. It is troublesome how he didn't seem to recognize you, Shikamaru admitted, as he re-entered the conversation. I've seen him around, so I know he's been a genin for a while. But for him to not really have any clue about you, he'd have to be completely focused on something else. Yet, he doesn't seem the type, does he? Look for the underneath, Naruto quoted as he would frown again, before shrugging once more. So, Gaara. Anything I should know? Yes, Gaara admitted, his face looking thoughtful. Wanna tell me what that would be? The blonde boy continued. Indeed, Gaara answered. Are you going to tell me what it is? Most likely. Do you know when you're going to tell me this? Soon. The redhead offered with a shrug. How soon as soon? Naruto pressed. Soon. Gaara shrugged back. Gaara, just tell me when you're going to tell me. Before the third stage of the exams. That's a bit broad. Best I can offer right now. I suppose that'll do, Naruto admitted, for now. Gaara nodded back, before Sakura looked from one of them to the other. You're both weird. True. The pair chorused. Tisk. Too damn troublesome, Shikamaru sighed before looking around. Anyone wanna play some shogi while we wait? I'd say we don't really have time, Naruto responded dryly, but I know how fast you'd beat most of us here. I'd say he should try playing my sister, Gaara offered, but trust me, you don't want to pull the girls away from their fun. Naruto shivered slightly. The pouting. Dear Lord, the pouting. The pouting. Gaara blinked slightly. Not the pain. Oh no. Naruto shook his head. You'll only wish that you were in pain. That technique. The puppy dog eyes. It's horrible, I tell you. Horrible. It would seem Kabuto is finding himself in a bit of trouble. Gaara nodded his head towards where the silver-haired genin was being assaulted by a trio of ninja wearing sound headbands. Interesting. Naruto responded back, watching the fight carefully. That punch missed, but still did damage. Must be a trick to it of some kind. Sakura spoke up, watching the fight carefully. Kabuto looked, thrown off balance for a second there, and his glasses were destroyed. Might be some kind of sound attack. Well, that is their village name. Naruto admitted. I suppose this is true. Gaara nodded. It will be interesting to see what happens if they make it to the finals. They won't be, Naruto responded cheerfully. Oh. Gaara arched a brow at Naruto. What makes you so certain of that? Put this into your little cards. They could hear one of the sound nin in the distance. The three hidden sound ninja. Definite future chunins. Because I'm going to make certain that they're eliminated from the exam's first chance I get. Naruto smiled ferally. It's just bad manners to assault a Konoha nin, in Konoha, before the exams have even started. Someone just has to remind them that proper manners are essential to a ninja. Of course, who better than me to do it? I'm really glad you're on our side, Naruto. Sakura spoke up with a shiver. Considering what I've seen you do to our own ninja, I don't even wanna think about what you'll do to them. Alright, quiet down, you worthless bastards. A sudden explosion of smoke and noise filled the room as the voice barked out a shouting growl. As the smoke cleared, it revealed a tall, broad-shouldered, scarred man, dressed in a proctor's uniform, black trench coat, gloves and a thick black bandana underneath his forehead protector. Flanking him on either side were a large group of leaf nin, dressed in similar gray proctor uniforms. Smirking coldly at the rest of the room, the scarred man began to speak. Thanks for waiting. I'm Morino Ibiki, the examiner for this test. Pausing in his speech for a moment, the man lazily raised a glove and pointed to the sound nins. You three, from hidden sound, stop acting however you please. Do you want to be failed out of the exam already? Sorry. The bandaged nin responded in a bored voice without an ounce of regret. First time at a Chunin exam, I guess we got a little carried away, nay. Bah! Ibiki snorted loudly as he glared back at the three. Let me take this opportunity to say this. No fighting without the examiner's permission. And any fights I do let happen, killing your opponents will not be tolerated. The stupid shits that disobey me. You can drag your asses back to your villages and explain how you failed out because you couldn't do something like following simple directions. Am I clear? Whatever you say, Ibiki-san. Naruto spoke up cheerfully, his bright blue eyes locking onto the Jonin's own, and staring deep. A slight tightening of the eyes was the man's only response, fighting down the sudden urge to pale and go running for the hills. Damn it, he'd withstood days of some of the most painful tortures imaginable. He would not let himself be cowed by this little brat. Damn it, I should have known Anko would put him in this year, Ibiki grumbled softly under his breath, before growling out where everyone could hear. All right, you brats, get up here and pick up a number, then go and sit in the matching seat. I don't have all day. I take it that you're familiar with the examiner? Gaara asked as the group made their way over towards the group of proctors. Oh yeah, why do you think I've been so eager to get to this? Naruto rubbed his hands together viciously. I'm gonna have fun. At the table, Morino Ibiki suppressed the shiver running down his back. Suddenly, he wasn't quite as certain that this was gonna be the easy gig he thought it would. Elsewhere in the academy, how did we get talked into this hiyashi? Inoichi grumbled slightly as he carefully pulled the broad-brimmed hat atop his head. Because we want to keep enjoying getting laid regularly by some of the more desirable kunoichi there are. The Hyuga responded as he lightly twirled a cane in his hand, before pulling on a deep purple silk robe. Ah yes, Inoichi responded with a slow nod, as he could hear the ripple of feminine giggles around them. I suppose that is true. Plus, it gives us a chance to embarrass our girls, the pale-eyed man responded with a completely straight face. That is true, Inoichi agreed, lightly tapping his lip, though, I think Naruto's going to get a laugh out of this. Just one. Hiyashi responded with a humorous smirk on his lips. As the banner-ready girls. Inoichi continued with a chuckle. Oh yes, Inoichi-sama. Came the chorus of replies. Well then, I suppose all that's left is for us to enjoy ourselves until it's time for our entrance, The blonde man asked his friend. Indeed. However will we pass the time? Oh, I think we could find something